Jesi milostivi čovekoljubiv Bog i tebi slavu uznosimo, Otcu i Sinu i Svetome Duhu, sada i u vekove vekova.
In a world of shadows and secrets untold, where primeval stories make the brave go cold, mighty gods on high and realms below, whispers of legends that shape each soul. And nightmarish dreams, cryptids lurking, nothing's as it seems, giants walking, angels and demons fight, only truth can bring the light. Through the echoes of time, the tales unfold, mysteries arise as the prophecies are foretold, from valiant knights to buried treasure, this podcast brings nothing but pleasure. Welcome to myth, mysteries and majesty. Study with us, and don't be a travesty. Theology, mythology, fantasy, and horror. Dungeons and dragons, Skyrim and Mordor. And Mordor, the powers haunt the evening. In gothic castles where they're screaming. Wizards cast spells in their towers tonight, exploiting enigmas hidden from our sight. Archaeologists make excavations deep of the ancient tombs where pharaohs sleep. In the dust of ages we chronicles keep, storytelling's power of monsters that creep. Myths, mysteries and majesty is the place for you to learn about this haunted space. From scholarship to manuscripts of old, unlock the secrets of wisdom and gold.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 106 on 3M Podcast, your favorite podcast. I hope you liked the new intro song. For today, we prepared this so-called hot topic because it's been so amusing to watch all these video responses on Billy Carson, both last week and this week. And we decided to do it in a little bit different way. Namely, even though we want to expose lies and deceit and we want to proclaim the gospel and truth, we don't want to attack anyone per se. We don't want to hate on anyone. So in this context, it is on our hearts that Billy would come to know truth, who is Jesus Christ. We want him to come to know the truth, to submit and yield to the Holy Spirit, and get to know the Lord that he's been rejecting, using his quasi or pseudo scientific and academic credentials and knowledge, which we will show soon he does not really have. And before we switch to this famous debate which we had with Wes Huff, we want to give as the intro some of the videos that some other apologists and YouTubers gave to Billy Carson, including Michael Jones from Inspiring Philosophy YouTube channel, some others, and then we'll be slowly introduced to the Wes Huff's content because we want to see what has Billy Carson been teaching over the years, and by the end we want to see some of the exposure when it comes to his material and who he truly is, so that we can see, hey, if I'm a Christian or a non-Christian, and I've been watching Billy, and I think he's credible, and he's an authority or one of the authorities on the ancient civilizations and ancient texts, hopefully this video will help you see that he's not. And all in the spirit of truth and love, hoping that he will again come to Christ. I'm very pleased and honored that we have another female on our podcast tonight, and this is Amber coming for the first time. She just finished with her semester. We're very proud of her theology education. Amber, what can you tell us something about yourself when it comes to spiritual and theological background and your podcast?
Okay, wow. That's kind of an interesting question to answer. So I'll start with school stuff. So I am a biblical studies Old Testament major, and I I started with going into what's called like historical critical, looking at everything from the historical lens and bringing a lot of that stuff in while you're trying to understand how to read the Old Testament. And had a professor for a couple of classes now who trained like Tim Mackey and Carmen Imes and some of those people that completely shifted my understanding. And so now I am doing what's called intertextuality and canonical narrative, which is a totally different way to look at it. And so that has kind of shifted so I grew up in a restoration tradition church, a restoration movement tradition church. And most people know that as either Church of Christ or Disciples of Christ. That's kind of that world there. And so this has been quite an interesting shift. So at the moment, I am a lapsed non-denominational Protestant who doesn't really have an affiliation anywhere at this point, because I'm still trying to kind of figure all that, how all that aligns with the way that I've learned to basically completely re-understand the Old Testament in a way that I never did before in that old context. So I don't really have a good answer for exactly where I am right now, because I'm just kind of exploring to find out what aligns best with how I'm learning to understand the Old Testament in its original, the narrative context that it was written in. So yeah, that's kind of me in a in a nutshell there.
And something about your podcast?
Oh yeah, and so I have a channel called When Deep Calls Deep, and we spend a lot of time exploring Old Testament ideas. And then I've got also some conversations that I'm having with people about ecumenical agreements and discovering where we agree more than we think we do, and understanding where there's more overlap in different traditions than we think. And it's been a fun surprise to sit down with a bunch of different traditions and to figure out, hey, we don't fight as much as, we focus too much on what we're fighting about, and we agree on way more than we think we do. So that's kind of what I do on my channel.
That's amazing. I want to give you credit for that, because for us as Protestants, and I believe Catholics and Orthodox do the same, sometimes we can be so dogmatic to think we're the best, we're the oldest,
Mm-hmm.
we speak the sound doctrine, we're the only one, we're the only those watchmen on the wall, we're the only one who still have the original gospel. And sometimes that pride and arrogance can bring us to being dissociated with others, because I don't want to be in a ecumenical association with others, because by doing that,
Mm-hmm.
by default I'll have to embrace everything they believe. So they'll find gazillion reasons not to associate with others. And sometimes I'm thinking, how rather, associate, break bread, and take communion with brothers, sisters, that is Orthodox or Catholic, that really love God. I'm not looking for any sort of perfection in their life. I'm not looking for that. But if I see that they crave to know Jesus more, to love Him more, I would rather associate with them and hang out with them and fellowship with them than someone from my church who does not care about theology, who just think because they repeated certain prayer, they're by default now in the body of God, and they don't know nothing, which is not a problem, but they don't desire to know nothing. So I also want to experience something more of that. Like, let's try to, because one of the mottos on the channel is unity despite diversity. So I'm like, let's build bridges and just destroying them. Yeah, if there's a heresy, if there's someone like denying one of the most fundamental part of Christianity, yeah, of course, let's rebuke them in love and just stay away from them unless they repent. But otherwise, like, why are we so hating each other? So I'm so glad to hear that. Shaun, welcome back. I know that you've been watching the whole debate between Wes and Billy Carson. If you have a minute to say, what can you tell? Why is this topic and us analyzing Billy Carson's teaching so important for the audience?
Yeah, well, I honestly didn't know who Billy Carson was before you invited me to come and speak on this. So I just went and started watching all the stuff that I could get a hold of, and Wes posted the whole debate on his channel a couple days ago. But I think it's just so important for Christians because of the fact that Billy is so popular. there's no reason that these arguments should be taken seriously. So the part of the reason that we're kind of exposing this and doing what we're doing is because there are people who don't understand how criticism works and how you get to these ideas, and what ideas are actually worth entertaining. So we want to help people to try to think through some of that today.
Amen. And I just want to say some of the sections will be serious, but some will be hysterical ones when we get to know that Billy claimed that he can read some of the ancient cuneiform tablets and dead languages. He would speak with so much confidence about how Jesus is a distorted copycat from dying and rising gods. Like all these things are like, you can actually tell like this is nonsense, but he speaks with so much confidence. So yeah, some of the videos will be more serious, some will be more, I would say, funny. But that being said, let's start analyzing one by one video. And again, we'll be starting with Michael Jones and Aspiring Philosophy YouTube channel, and we'll slowly switch to his debate with Wes.
Jesus disappears from the Bible at the age of 12. And where does he go?
It says Nazareth.
There's another text called the Gospel of the Holy 12. And in the Gospel of the Holy 12, which was omitted from the Bible.
You can't omit something from the Bible that did not exist when the Bible was put together. The Gospel of the Holy 12 is a well-known 20th century forgery. There is not an historian alive who thinks it is authentic, but Billy Carson pretends it is and hopes his audience will never fact-check him.
He goes to Egypt with his mother. He went there to study the Egyptian mysteries.
That is utter nonsense.
And then he left there and he went to Tibet to learn spirituality.
He went to Tibet?
And mystic arts. Yes, mystic arts. And then he went down into India, learned about reincarnation, all of that.
There is not a scrap of evidence to support these fables of Billy Carson.
Jesus disappears from the...
Okay, so this is the first video. I think it's hilarious. Billy speaks again with so much, not just enthusiasm, but this self-confidence. Oh yeah, we know Jesus went to Egypt, but he also went to Tibet. He went to India. He learned about reincarnation. He learned about all this mysticism. And then he came back, he doesn't say this, but this is how the story ends. And then he comes back to his, hometown, and then he starts teaching these things. But when you turn to the Gospels, there's nothing that is about reincarnation. There's nothing about Indian and Eastern, mysticism. So it's like, let's talk about this. Shaun, what is your opinion about this video?
Well, I mean, I think he left out that he also went to Wakanda and he gave them the technology for the Black Panther suit. He also created unobtainium. It's like, what? There's no evidence for any of this. This is just, just no. Why would you have people believing that? That's just a blatant lie. If you don't have historical evidence for it, if nobody believed this before 50 years ago, it's not true. We can't just make stuff up and then say, oh, well, this is the truth. No.
Amber?
Yeah, I was going to say, when did Jesus get a TARDIS? Because that doesn't work very well. Like, travel in that period of time was so difficult. To get all of the places that he's claiming that he would have gotten, it would have been prohibitively expensive. It would have been extremely dangerous, and just not, people moved around, but it just isn't, to that extent, is really hard to back up and support without any kind of actual evidence, when the gospel's very clear where he was in the first place. So yeah, you don't get very many words into this when you just can't take the guy seriously, because I haven't seen any of his debates or any of his material at all. This is the first time I've seen any of this. So I'm just like, wow, that's incredible, the things that he's claiming. Like, this should be really interesting.
When for Jesus as God, man, if he could teleport or fly away like Superman, then I guess it's not that incredible. But of course, that wouldn't suit Billy, because Billy admits, we'll see this later, Billy admits that Jesus existed, but just not in the way that we would understand him as the Lord and God. Yeah. So this, I hope the audience will slowly start seeing how he speaks nonsense, and he has tons of followers, which to this day I cannot understand why, because uh, he had years of building his internet so-called career, and people will be like swallowing his material like being blind and completely dumbed down. I can't believe. So this is why this intro of having short videos of Michael Jones exposing him, saying, "Hey, no, these are nonsense. Quote me some, academic book or an article," which of course Billy cannot. So this is good for us to understand that Billy does this all the time, and he's been doing it for many years. And this is how, maybe not completely how, but this is one of the ways how he built wealth and internet reputation. And I don't understand how. Okay, let me see. We have another video. Oh my gosh, I have 16 of them. So let me see, maybe with the emerald. Yes, emerald tablets.
The Bible, you discover he's born of a virgin birth. When you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, you discover that he talks about he developed the ability to incarnate at will on and in any plane that he desires. I've just done the work. I've read so much information, and I've been able to put together so many dots.
You didn't come up with this. You read this from somewhere. What did you read that told you this?
The Gospel of the Holy 12.
The Emerald Tablets of Thoth don't exist. In 1925, a man named Maurice Doreal claimed to have gone to the Great Pyramids in Giza and discovered an artifact that he called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And then he produced a translation of the said document. But Doreal never actually produced any evidence of any tablets, merely told people he did. Sure, you can go on Amazon and buy a supposed translation of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, but you're just reading what Doreal made up. No archaeologist or Egyptologist today thinks there is any artifact called the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. The Gospel of the Holy 12 is also a forged document.
The Bible, you discover he's born.
Okay, I have also what Michael Jones is saying on this, so maybe we can watch that one too, because they're kind of connected, and it's another short video.
A lot of the information that made it into this book right here come from ancient text.
Well, the Bible is a collection of ancient texts, so duh.
Everywhere where Jesus is actually speaking, his words actually come from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which are 36,000 years old.
Oh, Billy. Billy. Where are the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? Can you show us them? What have Egyptologists said about them? You know, as well as I do, they don't exist. In 1925, Maurice Doreal claimed he went to the Great Pyramids of Giza, claimed he found the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and then claimed he translated them. But he never produced a scrap of evidence to back up his claims. And at this point in your career, you've got to know this is true.
Okay, so these two videos are very related. That's why I wanted to see, both perspective from Michael Jones and from Wes Huff. Shaun, I know that you used to be in New Age and you liked crazy stuff. Have you ever heard about these tablets?
Yes, I've heard about the Emerald Tablets. And I would just like to ask Billy, do you see the tablets right now? Are they in the room with us? They don't exist. I mean, there's more evidence for Joseph Smith's Book of Mormon than there is for the Emerald Tablets. I mean, the icing on the cake would have been if this guy said they were written in Reformed Egyptian. Like, that would have been awesome. It's just like, oh yeah. So no, the Bible isn't quoting the Emerald Tablets. The Emerald Tablets are purposely quoting the Bible.
Amber?
It's so absurd you have to laugh at it, but at the same time, it really is, to me, a commentary on how much people just get lazy and outsource their reason making to whatever they see online. Be like, oh, well, if it's on the internet, it has to be true, said Abraham Lincoln. Like it just, it to me, it's just sad that we aren't learning through however avenue we do that, either through school or through our own faith congregations. We're not taught to challenge every thought. We're just, okay, to me, while it's hilariously absurd, it's also sad that it is that way.
Correct. It is sad because he seems so confident. Sometimes, because I watched many videos of him, he speaks so fast he doesn't even come to pause and think if what he's saying makes sense or it's logical or if he can provide evidence. It's like someone who is I don't want to put any derogatory word. I don't want to insult anyone, but it's almost like someone who is not maybe mentally okay, just spewing out all this information. It's like, is it because to impress us? Is it because to so people will have he'll have more number of clicks on his videos or maybe sell his books? I don't know. I don't want to assume the worst about the person. I don't know their motives, but I'm just saying that this does not make sense. If you would put in a room, someone doesn't even have to have PhD or masters in this and that, but just put them if they can quote reputable scholars in that field. So like in this sense, put someone who is a linguist, who is a historian, who is into archaeology, and let them provide evidence. And if you will go against them and you cannot provide any credible sources or evidence, I'm sorry, but regardless of your name and reputation, and you can have gazillion books behind you, that doesn't bring anything on that you can hold on to that and provide as a, hey, I have a proof, I can argue with you, and I can have a debate. And this is why I don't understand all those hundreds of thousands of people constantly following Billy and believing blindly, like aliens, creation, Earth, civilizations. He just mentioned 36,000 years. Like, dude, okay, what is the evidence? That some guy 100 years ago invented this book and supposedly translated. And like Shaun said, this is really a copy paste how the Book of Mormon came to be, like with Joseph Smith. This is exactly how it came to be. Hey, I got Revelation, I translated the book. Where's the original book? Where are the original plates? Oh, they're lost. Oh, but I was the chosen one who got to tell you the truth. So listen to me. I mean, that's the easiest way how to, get rid of the, like, I don't have to be credible. I don't have to show you evidence. Just trust me. God sent me. I'm the chosen one. Give me your money. This is how cults, I'm saying Billy, but this is how cults are usually working. Follow me, distancing themselves from their family, from their friends, from money, from careers, from anything else, and just dedicating themselves not to God, but to this cult. And it is really sad. But yeah, so I'm glad I actually mentioned aliens, because the next short video is titled, Did Aliens Create Jesus? Okay, so I know it's funny, but here we go.
Jesus was Yeshua. This was a real person that existed. Here's what's interesting, though. The fact that he was a virgin birth, but when I looked deeper into see, well, maybe this was a mistake or maybe it was a mistranslation, I found through the Apocrypha text that his grandmother was also a virgin birth. So we see this established bloodline here where through the grandmother comes his mother, and then through his mother comes him, both through in vitro fertilization. This is advanced technology.
I must have missed the part in Luke where Gabriel shows up with a syringe of fertilized eggs. And we're back to the old days where Billy Carson implies everything in the Bible is 'cause aliens. But it's still a better love story than Twilight.
I have to say I love Michael. God bless him. I was just watching his Refutation of Myth Vision podcast. Okay, Shaun.
So I'm glad that Mike was he had that meme queued up, because I was gonna say, dude, I wonder if Billy is trying to get onto Ancient Aliens. Like, I mean, he's almost unhinged enough to be a host on Ancient Aliens. Like, dude, this is ridiculous. First of all, I've never heard of anyone believing that Jesus's grandmother was conceived through a virgin birth, right? Like, no, never. Nowhere in church history does that. At least no reputable source in church history says that. And the Catholics have an understanding of Mary's conception, and that the idea of her being conceived without sin, and that they're kind of in their own vein there, and it's more about understanding how Augustine viewed original sin. But that's not a virgin birth. That's immaculate conception. That's being conceived without the consequences of sin. So there's nobody who believes that that Mary's mom was conceived through in vitro fertilization. That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous.
But you don't know. You weren't there thousands of years ago. What if aliens came with this advanced technology? How do you know this?
Well, because we have Luke, who's the closest thing to firsthand source that we can get.
You got me actually with evidence. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry. We can't use truth here. I'm sorry. We just got to make stuff up. Yeah.
Okay. Until Amber catches her breath, I've been saying these days, like Billy Carson's debates and so-called, scholarship reminds me if my younger niece, who is 11 or 12, would go to NASA or at least come back and tell us, hey, I went to NASA and I trained all the scientists how to travel with the speed of light to Mars within minutes. This is how Billy Carson's stories and credibility sounds like. The same way I will look at my niece and think she's either sick, maybe she has a fever, she's not well, or she's just playing games with me. I don't know. That's the same level of credibility that I will have if I would listen to Billy about anything, not just the Gospels, like with ancient aliens, with all those ancient civilizations and documents. He supposedly is one of those few people, and I heard this in one of the videos. He's one of the few people on the planet that can actually read one of the lost, forgotten ancient languages. And I'm listening to him and I'm like thinking, dude, do you ever get ashamed? Like, I'm one of those introverts that I can remember a situation or a conversation from 10 years ago today, and I get ashamed of myself. Why did I say this? Why didn't I say something else? So it's like, how do people deal with this when they just can talk nonsense and they don't have any guilt or shame? Like, how do you live? Like, dude, like, where's the line? Like, can you just go out and talk nonsense? Or let's say every 10th word he would say is true. So let's say this is true, and this is true, and this is true, and this is true. And all in the middle, he would just throw details randomly and make this amazing story that would be great if you watch Twilight Zone or X-Files. It will be amazing, but not when it comes to scholarship. So it's like, I really don't understand that. Also being said, I want to greet all 21 people watching live now. Questions, comments, as long as they're kind, are welcome. Please subscribe, like, share the videos. We need help on the podcast. And also please subscribe to all these videos that we're sharing, all the channels that we're sharing their videos tonight. I give them credit in the links description, but also please support them. Wes Huff, Michael Jones, and other people. Amber, your turn before we go in the next one.
We got 3 videos in, and I don't think I'd believe this guy if he told me what he had for lunch. Like, I don't know. I'm baffled. I really am. It is really baffling to me. This whole, I don't even know what to say. I'm so speechless at this point. And it is so amazing that people are just blindly listening and believing anything this guy has to say. It's so ridiculous. And Mike Jones has the perfect response. Like, the Twilight is a better love story than this. Like, I don't even know. At this point, I really don't. I think I'm gonna, my brain might hemorrhage at some point as further we keep going with this, because I'm baffled. I really am.
Yeah. Okay, next video is just slightly longer, 1:25.
Do you understand what Christ is? Christ is you. We're all Christ. And until you understand that, you're going nowhere. Jesus never said he was coming back. He said the Christ would return. And by that, he meant the consciousness, the Christ consciousness, the understanding of wisdom and ascension knowledge comes back and returns in every single person's mind. And by that method, the return is us. We are the second coming. Till you understand that, you're going nowhere.
All you have to do is look it up. Billy, you do understand this, right? That all we have to do is look up what Jesus said. So not only did Jesus say that he is coming back, but he never said the Christ is coming back. So for Billy to just say that Jesus never said he's coming back, what he really said is the Christ is coming back, just shows how much he understands that his audience is not going to go fact check what he's talking about. And then not only does he misquote Jesus, he then goes on to say what Jesus actually meant. So you say that he didn't say what he actually said, Then you say that he actually said something else. And then you say that he didn't mean what we think he means, but what he actually means is something totally different. And we're just supposed to believe you.
Yeah, so here Billy's proposing this new age-ish belief that we heard from our let's be gracious and say friends, because we're all in a mess and need God. So from our new age-ish friends, and Shaun was in this, so maybe he can give us more perspective. We all heard of this Christ consciousness, which is such a Eastern religion and mystic part of belief that, you know, I don't think you submit to any specific deity per se, but that when you realize you're divine. Shaun, let's start from the Garden of Eden till nowadays. What has changed in this philosophy? I don't see that their philosophy has changed a lot.
No. I mean, the serpent first said that you'll be like God, right? And so that's what they want. They want to be like God. The problem is that they suck at being God, right? Man, I mean, this is some Deepak Chopra stuff, right? Like oh yeah, like we're all really God, and all you have to do is realize that God is like not a personal being, and we're all kind of that thing. No. I mean, that is so embedded in like the Eastern thought, the Eastern idea, this esoteric religion. And the religion of Israel is an exoteric religion. Those two things do not come together. They're the antithesis of one another. The Easterns would talk about like these mystical experiences that you have to have on the inside. In Israeli religion, they were looking for signs. Like they want something that's substantial, right? Like they're the exact opposite. You cannot harmonize the two. I mean, you don't even have to decide which one is right or wrong. You just cannot harmonize the two. They don't fit. So why they're trying to put Jesus in this Eastern religion, this idea didn't even come around until after the British occupation of India. Like this is like 20th century stuff. I mean, nobody thought about this prior to that. It's just so ridiculous that the fact that there's anybody out there who continues to talk like that, it just blows my mind. It just shows that there's no critical thinking skills at all.
Actually, I wish I'm a little bit more divine so my hair would grow. Hopefully that will stimulate my dead cells, but I don't see anything divine in me. I mean, I'm sorry. I wish there is something. Like, you know, it doesn't work that way. Amber.
Oh, one of the things that this semester I just finished up, I took patristic theology that went up to just the other side of this great schism. And one of the things that he kept highlighting all semester was if you learn the heresies that they dealt with the first 7 councils, you will be able to refute all bad theology for the rest of time, because nothing new resurfaces beyond those 7. And I'm not sure, I think I'm losing count, but we're definitely going to get to all 7 of those by the time we get through through his videos, because I'm like, wait a second, I can't tell you which heresy that was, but we've got at least 2 in that video right there. Like, it's impressive actually how he's able to do that.
Yeah, it definitely is. Okay, next video is also a short one. Yeah, this is also a good one.
Wes Huff makes Billy Carson regret running to the book of Barnabas.
It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
The Gospel of Barnabas is a really interesting document because it is a known forgery. It shows no actual indication of evidence of coming from or even having knowledge of first century Jewish understanding. And I think a bigger problem is that the Gospel of Barnabas actually paraphrases Dante's Inferno. Never mind the fact that we don't have any evidence of it prior to the 14th century, and none in any other language other than Middle Age Italian Italian and Spanish. It's a known forgery. I mean, no one's referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than...
If you say it's a known forgery, yes, but I'm going to go with that.
Wes Huff makes Billy Carson regret running to the...
You know what bothers me? It's not a problem that someone can make a mistake. We all make mistakes when it comes to theology, philosophy, our own faith, beliefs. No problem. But the problem is if someone portrays himself or herself as an authority in some field and then repeats year after year the same thing without even bothering to look more into what they're saying, and then someone comes and refutes them and they're like, oh, okay, if you say so. Well, wait. But if Wes said so, it's not Wes who is also authority on the truth either. It's your job, Billy, to go and check what you said versus what Wes says, and then go see what is actually truth. And then it's your responsibility towards yourself and towards your audience to speak that then truth. If you don't like that truth, then don't mention this book at all. If you don't think it helps your cause in your anti-Christian, dogma or whatever is your agenda, then don't even mention. But once when someone schooled you and told you, well, actually, this is a forgery and it came out much later, we'll see from now on, will Billy continue mentioning this as it supposedly supports his case? Because it doesn't. And if someone told him, also about Jesus's grandmother, or in many other things that we'll see that Wes tried to school him may sound like arrogant, but show him to correct him, like, hey, this is false. We'll see from now on in the next year if Billy will humble himself and say, okay, I was wrong in this or that. Maybe I won't go public and apologize, but maybe in my approach and in my books and videos from now on, starting with 2025, I will stop saying some stuff because I'm embarrassed. I see that they're false. We'll see if he has that credibility, which I would love for him to have, because that truth and that humility will, I believe, slowly lead him to Christ. So I hope he does this to himself, because he owes truth to himself and to his audience. So say, Billy, please stop with lies and deception. Okay, Shaun.
So there's a free book that you can get for Kindle. It's the Ante-Nicene Fathers, and all you got to do is like, oh, this is a source I'm going to use. Let's see if it existed then. Oh, it didn't? Okay, so it's probably fake. I'm not going to use the Noah movie as like an apologetic, right? Like the stuff that happened in there is awful and terrible, bad theology, right? But for him to just be like, well, there's this one document that nobody accepts as credible, but it says the thing that I like. Bro, that's bad scholarship. And like, I understand that not everybody is involved in scholarship. I don't have any advanced degree or anything, but that doesn't mean that I'm not keeping track of like where the field is, as far as like what people are saying, because I don't want to be saying something that I have. It would be irresponsible for me to try to teach somebody something if that's not coming from a credible source, right? And so if he's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, there should be some sort of conviction, some sort of responsibility, like, hey, I got to make sure that what I'm saying is actually valid. But I guess if you just like eject truth and, oh, well, the person who claims that he himself is truth, he was just some dude created by aliens, test tube baby. Like what? Yeah, I guess if that's the world you live in, you can do whatever you want as long as it pays you, right? But here on this podcast, we're gonna like go after truth and what can be affirmed, what we can show and demonstrate is true. And that ain't it.
I see Amber sharing some good book recommendations in the chat. Amber, what would you like to add on what Shaun said when it comes to this so-called Gospel of Barnabas?
Yeah, I think this is where everybody should read at least one book on text criticism or text and canon, or the development of the canon, like where your Bible comes from. Everybody should read a book about that. So that's why I've started dropping in some of the ones that we covered in class or that we've talked about and professors have mentioned that I trust that are good resources. Some of them I've read, some of them are on my to read list, but you really need to at least read a book about it so that you have an idea of how things got into the Bible the way that they did. And then you understand, well, Barnabas, the Epistle of Barnabas, if it doesn't show up before 1400, that is a problem. So, there's just some very basic, and most of these books are really easy to read. Some of them easier than others, but the ones I'm putting in here are not heavily academic books. So it's, or you just go look and search, textual criticism or text and canon, and, find yourself an easier read one that it is so important to combat things like this. If you have a basic understanding of how what got into our Bibles, then this kind of nonsense doesn't get any traction.
Yeah, thanks for that. So when it comes to next couple of videos, as I was telling Shaun before we went live, I don't know why, but our brother apologist Wes Huff deleted them from his podcast. Thankfully, before he deleted them, as if almost I knew this may happen, I downloaded them. So, I can just play them from my hard drive and I can delete them after that. No problem with that. The first one is called Billy Carson Admits He's Wrong on the Sinai Bible. Okay, so let me just share my my screen and see if it works. Okay. Can you guys see
According to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
Do you mind if I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
When you say the Sinai Bible, what are you referring to specifically? Refer to the Sinai Bible. Would you be referring to Codex Sinaiticus, like the codex that comes? Okay, that's why I was trying to get some clarification, because I actually have a facsimile. So I have a photocopy of Codex Sinaiticus that I work with in my office. So I have it here. And the only reason I asked for clarification is because Sinaiticus in particular is just a 4th century Greek manuscript. Its text of the Gospels reads almost identical to the modern Greek text that we develop translations from. When you say that it denies the crucifixion or that the crucifixion isn't there, I mean, I can go on right now, Codex Sinaiticus, and I can look up Matthew 27. Where it has Jesus being crucified, and that's in Codex Sinaiticus, or John 19, or any of the other ones. So my confusion is that it doesn't read any differently.
Where was that piece
I found
discovered?
the text where I was referencing. Actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas. Never got crucified. As a matter of fact, the Sinai Bible, Jesus was crucified. Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible. The Sinai Bible. But then you go to the Sinai Bible. In the Sinai Bible and the Sinai Bible. According to the Sinai Bible, Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
Yeah, actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there.
This is hilarious. The Sinai Bible. No one amongst Christian academia, scholars, theologians, professors call it the Sinai Bible. But okay, let's call it the Sinai Bible because of the codex found there, and that's the oldest or the second oldest Bible we have that has all the books of the Bible plus 2 extra. I think it's the Shepherd of Hermas and I forgot the other one. But basically, he's claiming, and I don't know why. Again, this is one of those videos where he speaks with such confidence. I don't think he ever found a copy of it or a translation to even look for himself. He just found some info, and as we saw in the video, there are like actually several shorter videos put together where he keeps saying on different podcasts, in the Sinai Bible, we don't see Jesus being crucified. Dude, if the Sinai Bible is actually the whole Bible being translated into modern English, I mean, how can you not see Jesus' crucifixion in the synoptics in all three, in at least, well, okay, let's say that, for example, let's say that Mark 16 could be debatable. Let's say that. But are you telling me you cannot see in Matthew and Luke, and even in the John, which is not synoptics, you couldn't tell me that in the Sinai Bible, there are no verses that support Jesus' resurrection? I mean, come on, like that's such a, I mean, that's the level of audacity that I don't understand. I would understand if a child would come to me 3-4 age old and tell me, hey, there's a monster out front of the door. I would rather believe that kid that maybe they saw something than Billy tell me that in the Sinai Bible there's no crucifixion or resurrection of Jesus. I mean, it's such a blatant lie. Shaun.
Yeah, I mean, you can go online right now and see the Codex Sinaiticus. They have every single page of it, and they have a translation next to it, so you can read it. And on some of the pages, at the end of some of the books, it'll even say from the Library of Origin, right? So we know like where they got the manuscripts that they had, because they were copying manuscripts to create a full edition of the Bible. Origin, I mean, I might be wrong, but he totally believed in the crucifixion. Right? Like, I mean, he might have been a heretic in some other senses. I mean, he wasn't, I don't think he was actually denounced as a heretic until the Fifth Council, but he totally believed in the crucifixion. And so he had the text that went in to make Codex Sinaiticus that they were putting together. Bro, I mean, there's no argument here. Like, the Sinai Bible says, you know, to touch your nose, right? Like, what are we even doing here? The Sinai Bible, that's just ridiculous. It's Codex Sinaiticus. We know what it has. We've used a lot of the readings in Codex Sinaiticus for the Nestle-Aland and for the UBS translation. So a lot of the readings that we use actually come from Codex Sinaiticus. So yeah, that's just ridiculous. I mean, it shows that there was zero effort put into it. He's just referencing something that he believes is so obscure that nobody's going to know about it. But it's really not that obscure. I mean, it was like one of the biggest finds in textual critical history. You know, to have a complete Bible when Tischendorf found this thing, like it was basically a complete Bible in St. Catherine's Monastery. So yeah, I mean, it was big. The whole Christian world knew about it. It was like the one thing that overturned, you know, the King James and produced the Revised Standard or the American Standard Version. I mean, it was a big deal. So we should know more about this. And the fact that you can go online and literally just look at the pages, like there's no excuse for people buying into this stuff.
Yeah, I love especially that part that you said. It's this like zero effort. Like basically, I thought I knew something from 5 or 10 years ago, and I made no effort all these years. It's being intellectually lazy to go and double check my sources, but I keep going copying, pasting on different podcasts the same things I've been saying. People are like, wow, this guy's so smart. Seriously, is this the sign of intelligence and being smart? That's above my pay grade. Amber, I know you have to go to be on another podcast. Would you like just something to to share your mind on this? And you're free to go whenever you would like.
Yeah, no, yeah, I do. I gotta jump out here, but yeah, I would just say that yeah, it's so important to do your homework. Everybody needs to find. You can find good, cheap, copies that aren't that expensive of a book about the history of the Bible, about text and canon, about just basic understanding where our Bible comes from is going to eliminate, educating yourself about so much of this. It's why, it needs to be something that churches are educating people about these, about this kind of stuff. We need good theology education. We need good Bible education. We need good foundations of so many things that are important to be able to use good discernment when you hear things presented online, that you don't fall for this kind of stuff because you just aren't educated. And that is something that the internet has made free or really cheap. So, I would encourage people to find some good trusted sources and really absorb some of that, and then go back to watching some of the other stuff that is amusing, to weed out some of the falling for some of this kind of stuff. So, but I do got to bounce. Thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun. And
so I just want to say, in 2 Sundays, Amber and I will be doing this phenomenal episode where we'll be comparing Tolkien's Silmarillion with Plato's Timaeus, and maybe one more ancient work with the Book of Genesis. And also we'll compare the Divine Council worldview, God's different spiritual entities in all these, books. So it will be tons of fun and tons of research materials. So yeah, that's coming in 2 Sundays on December 29th. So just so people can know. Amber, thank you so much. Have fun on the other podcast.
Thanks, guys. That was fun. I enjoyed it. All right. I got to go. All right.
God bless. Okay, Shaun. So it's just 2 of us, the 2 amigos. Yeah, so the next video that Wes Huff, I don't know why, again, deleted from his YouTube channel, is called Billy Carson Relies on Forgery as Evidence and Has No Response. So let us see that short video again. It's between minute and two.
I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas. Jesus wasn't crucified in that Bible.
I've actually worked with, there are two manuscripts of the Gospel of Barnabas, which we only have two copies of. One is in Italian and one is in Spanish, not to be confused with either the Epistle of Barnabas or the Acts of Barnabas, which are two apocryphal documents from the 2nd century. But the Gospel of Barnabas in particular, we know it's a forgery. In chapter 92, it says that Jesus spent 40 days on Mount Sinai, and then he came to the Jordan River and he walked to Jerusalem. But Mount Sinai is more than a week's journey away from Jerusalem. It shows no actual indication of coming from or even having knowledge of 1st century Jewish understanding. It actually says Jesus is the Christ, but not the Messiah. Whoever the author is, he didn't know that those were the same words. The Gospel of Barnabas paraphrases Dante's Inferno, which was written in 1314. We don't have any evidence of it prior to the 14th century. So I'm a historian.
Yep.
So if there is something that denies the crucifixion, I want to make sure that I'm analyzing it and that the methodology by which I analyze it actually reveals that the content can be accurately tied to the event. We have single copies of the Gospels that can be dated to the 2nd century that all do have the crucifixion. I have a facsimile behind me of P66. This is a late 2nd century copy of the Gospel of John. I work with this particular manuscript. This is an almost complete copy of the Gospel of John, and it has the crucifixion. And so if we're relying on something like the Gospel of Barnabas, which is not just that there's debate about it, it's that it's a known forgery. I mean, no one's referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than.
If you say it's a known forgery, yes, but I'm going to go with that.
Okay, so I know we already touched on this, so maybe we don't have to comment for too long. But again, I also have to give credit to Wes. He's such a nerdy in a good way, scholar and historian. He's like, oh, you're talking about this? You know, here I have a book on this. You're talking about this? Yeah, I have on this. And this is the proper way how you should disarm someone in a debate. Like, you're not being angry with them. You don't hate them. They're not your enemy. You just try to settle the dispute about some topic. So if I show you this book about depression, it's called Between Pain and Grace, and you, Shaun, tell me something, oh, the author actually says something like, I don't know, Jesus walked on the moon, and I'm like, okay, what page? And you tell me, well, it chapter this, page this, and I go and say, no, it doesn't say that. Then it's your responsibility if you will accept it or not. But if I'm showing you the book that you're quoting, and I'm like, dude, I have the same book, I never said such a passage, are you sure? And you're like, yeah, I'm sure. And people would believe you because you have tons of followers. I mean, then it's like, it's up to you if you would accept correction or not. So I'm glad that here Billy is not actually arguing with Wes, but again, it's up to his credibility. Will he change some of his theology and philosophy in the coming months and years and say, actually, I was wrong, I'm sorry? Or will he continue saying the same things? So I love how Wes would say, hey, I'm actually a historian. We don't have this data that you've been telling us. So see, Billy can come and deceive someone like maybe you, me, someone who doesn't know much. But when he's dealing with an actual scholar in a certain field, and he says, okay, can you give me, well, it's actually this book. Well, that's a known forgery, and it came late, and I actually have here a copy of the gospel. We can see where Jesus was, crucified and resurrected. And then what does Billy say? He doesn't say, no, let me show you my sources. He's like, well, okay, if you say so. Maybe I misspoke. Okay. Well, what about years of you teaching falsely and deceiving millions of people worldwide? Because Billy is a known figure. He's a public figure. What do you do with that? You can't just erase that by one, oh, maybe I misspoke. Okay. Well, what about all those souls that believed you and are now being even more deceived? It's like there must be some accountability, Shaun, right?
Yeah. Well, first, you're not going to find the story of Jesus walking on the moon in that book. It's obviously in the Sinai Bible. But yeah, no, 100%. And I love the way that Wes he just adopted the position of like a teacher. Like, hey, look, I understand that you've been fed a lot of this crap, but look, like, I'm actually somebody who's competent and I know the sources. And so look, let me just show you. Like that way you can understand that what you're saying is wrong. He wasn't like trying to beat him over the head. It was just like this. Yeah, I know you probably have heard that, and I know you've probably watched a lot of YouTube videos, but you know, I have this degree, and I actually work with the manuscripts, and so you know, when I say something, it carries a little bit of authority. I just love that he adopted that posture and was just like, you know, he wanted to kind of bring Billy and like, hey, what's going on? Like, how are you arriving at these conclusions? And I think a lot of that was just him being a good, gracious Christian and just wanting to help Billy and like, hey, you know, you're a big figure. You've said all these things, but maybe if we can get you thinking about these things rightly, maybe you could change some of those opinions, change some of those videos, and people will start believing things that are a little bit better instead of, you know, it's in some nebulous Sinai Bible somewhere that nobody has access to, you know, buried underneath the emerald tablets of Thoth that only you can read, and the Reformed Egyptian. So yeah, no, I love what Wes did there, and you know, we saw in that video that you know, there was that little snippet there that was edited, and anyone who hasn't seen the full debate, well, for those who have, you know why that edit was in there. The moderator did a great job of trying to rabbit trail in any other direction except for the debate. I'm not sure why you would have a guest come on and then just monologue the whole time. That's like, no, that's not how you want to do that. But
yeah, everyone was upset with the moderator.
Yeah.
But also what I wanted to say, Billy seems like one of those guys on the internet who you meet who like, because they have no credibility, they're not authority. Or like when you ask them for evidence, they're like one of those, trust me, bro. Like
Yeah.
that's basically trust me, bro. And you're like, if you don't know about Billy and he or someone who likes him would say, oh yeah, trust me. And if you will go and check the number of books he's selling, I mean, the copies, right? If you go see how many clicks he has per video, you're like, wow, this person must know what they're talking about. Let me subscribe. Let me buy some of the books. You know, there is some, you know, you would think there's some credibility, but it's like Zechariah Hitchens on steroids.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's like, I mean, unfortunately, and this is not me like hating on him, but all these years watching stuff that he would say, like nonsense like that, I came to this point that people like Billy, if I would meet them in my life, and it doesn't even have to be about the Bible or ancient civilization, it can be about anything. They will come up with the wildest ideas, and they show this consistency over years. I think that if I will come up to that person in person and they would tell me, oh, it's such a beautiful day, I would not believe them a word. I would actually have to go outside and see if it's really a beautiful day and the weather, because they lost all credibility in my sight. Like if they would say yes, I don't know if yes would be yes. If they would say no, I don't know if no would be truly no. That's my problem. It's like with people like this, if you lost any trust, like there is no going back. There's no going back unless they would make a public video saying, God, I've sinned against you, I lied against you, and I lied against all of you because of my fake degrees and because I had this need to be maybe loved and accepted and to make money. I apologize, but help me, God. Starting with today, I'm turning a new page in my life. If you want to unsubscribe because you felt deceived, I completely, understand you. I love you, but this is my new start. I'll have much more respect and trust for that person. I'm like, oh, maybe Billy wants to be a new Billy. Like right when what's that rapper that several years ago came to Christ, started having his own ministries, and people like, oh, he may be candidating to the presidency. All Christians started loving him. What's his name?
Was that Kanye West?
Yes. So it's like, and then Kanye's mental health and the whole reputation started going down when he would start talking nonsense, and then like, I'm God, and Jesus left disappointed because he didn't answer all my prayers in my life. So it's like, dude, that's the thing. Once when you trust someone and when their reputations are going down and you lose the trust, that reputation is extremely hard to get back to that point where like people can it's not the point of loving and following you, but the point of like, hey, how can I trust you again? How can I see anything that you say? How can I know that you have any credibility and that you are honest towards me? How do I know you don't have any any secret agenda. You don't want to use me or abuse me for your interest. And that's when it came to point of someone like Billy. And it doesn't have to be Billy, it can be anyone like Billy. Take like last 5, 10, 15 years. I don't know how long he's been doing this. If you would summarize, what he's been saying, and he's not willing to change, he's not willing to learn. It's like, dude, you're just one of those internet people. Like, trust me, bro. Like, I have no reason to trust you. Maybe every 10th or 20th word you say is true, but in between, it's like, I mean, the devil does the same. He'll give you a portion of truth, and the rest he'll deceive you and turn you against God. And I'm not saying in any shape or form that Billy's Satan or Billy's the devil. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a similar way of structure how deceit works. So for me, that's actually sad how it will eventually turn against you. You can make money, you can be loved and famous, but overnight you can lose everything because people will soon see who you are. You can't keep deceiving people your whole life. I know I went a little bit over what I planned to say, but I just felt like saying stuff like this because we can see this even with religious leaders. We see in the last days, we see all these sexual scandals in the church, like people who we loved and taught, these are wonderful pastors, scholars, and then we hear they did this, which is telling all of us are a mess. But dude, like, don't try to deceive us. Don't try to portray yourself. That's why I'm never telling people I'm this amazing person, because like, dude, sooner or later you'll hear something about me and you'll be disappointed. Don't think too much or too high of myself. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not worse. I'm not better. I'm exactly the same, the person that God sees me as I am. I'm not better. I'm not like this or that. So I try telling people, don't think too highly of myself, because I'm not. I don't know if you would like to comment on this.
Yeah. Billy is he's someone who's in a position right now where he set himself up to be a teacher. He is if he is a teacher in any respect, it's not one that is respected by the scholarship, obviously, because he doesn't go to the scholarship. He's kind of that, like, I wouldn't even say surface level, like he's operating off in fantasy land somewhere, right? Like his books don't or the books that he's referencing don't comport to reality. They're known forgeries. He's referencing books that he hasn't read. Obviously, you can't reference the Sinai Bible that many times and not even be familiar with it. Like, I feel like he's either purposely misleading people, or he's just repeating talking points that he's heard. And so he's heard somebody else say it, and maybe they meant it to deceive people, and then he just uses that as a footnote, as, oh yeah, no, this is totally true, bro, trust me. And so I agree with you. He's lost all credibility. I don't think anybody should believe anything he says. He's been owned. And hopefully he decides to repent and to ask for forgiveness and to use the audience that he has for a good purpose, instead of if he's not trying to deceive them, at least be complicit in the deception.
Predominantly, from my research, I discovered that a lot of information from the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation is in Genesis. A lot of the creation story that comes into Genesis, almost word for word from the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation. The Epic of Atrahasis as well is also there in the Old Testament.
Have you read the Enuma Elish?
Yeah.
Do you mind summarizing the content of the creation account in the Enuma Elish for us?
Sure. The Enuma Elish is a very ancient text discovered in the Library of Ashurbanipal. And the summary of it is that it really gives us an account, which is crazy, an astronomical account of the creation of our solar system. It talks about planets and moons gaining specific orbits around the sun. It talks about a huge planet named Tiamat, 46 times larger than Earth. Earth didn't exist at the time that this, according to the author of this text, which is pretty interesting. And then there talks about a nemesis of sorts. In the original version, it's called Nibiru, but in a more recent version, still thousands of years old, the name was changed to Marduk. Marduk is in the Jewish American Library, in the biblical text, in the Torah, and so forth. Very popular figure in ancient times in the religious books and texts. Marduk wanted to be the destroyer, so Marduk is the one that during its next orbit towards Tiamat, crashed into Tiamat and destroyed Tiamat. A huge chunk of it swung away, recoalesced, taking the water, land, and organic material, which basically recoalesced as our planet here, Earth. And the rest of it broke up into pieces. Some of it turned into the asteroid belt. Other parts of it were thrown towards the sun, and some were thrown towards the inner Oort cloud, towards the outer edge of the solar system. This planet, or this moonlet that orbited supposedly a brown dwarf, basing on the description of it, gained a very strange orbit around our sun. And we have the scientific evidence now also to match with NASA's data, where we see that Saturn and I believe Neptune switch places. Uranus is flipped on its side, and that's more evidence that something came through our solar system in ancient times and gravitationally really tugged at planets here and switched up their orbits, and even pulled the axis of a planet on its own side, where the equator is now running north and south. So a little bit of modern astrophysics kind of backs up what this ancient text is saying. But the Enuma Elish also then begins to talk about the fact that these beings, it kind of cuts into the fact that these beings, are on Earth, and at some point begin to engage mankind. In other words, they didn't create people from scratch, but they engaged the existing hominid and began to utilize us as workers for their workforce. In the Atrahasis epic, you see a much similar story, slightly later date period, but still thousands of years old, the epic of Atrahasis. And we see a very similar story. And we see where the sons of God literally came down to Earth. They came from Mars, according to this text, if you read the translation of the planet Mars and to English. And then they went to battle. They were going to go to battle in South Africa against Enki and Lil and Anu. And they come to terms without going to battle. They argued that they needed women, human women, believe it or not. And they also wanted a workforce. They didn't want to continue to do the labor. They were cleaning out the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, digging canals, building cities on Earth, and according to the text on Mars, not according to me. And a decision was made by Enki and Anu and Enlil to allow this experiment to happen, where they would take the existing hominid here. They would slay one of the gods, meaning that they would, in my opinion, that doesn't mean that they're going to kill it, but somehow some type of genetic modification or manipulation, in my personal opinion, that's my personal hypothesis. But in the end, it ends up being that human beings are now doing a lot of this labor and worshiping these people as gods, as they, my personal opinion, masqueraded as gods.
So what are the parallels there?
Separated the waters from the waters, for example. That's in the Enuma Elish, and that's also in the biblical text.
Okay, that I would agree is a parallel.
Okay, Shaun. So here, okay, I like that he reads, but again, it's like a combo of astronomy, mythology, portions of sections. I love, which I don't, but I'm being sarcastic. I love how he says, oh, it's in the Jewish Bible, in the Torah. I mean, why don't you just use one word? If you keep using synonyms, that you know, the list, you're making an artificial list, like the list is longer, but like you're just saying as synonyms for the same things. Like, oh, it's in the Torah, it's in the Jewish Bible, it's in the Old Testament. Okay, well, I just told you one the same thing by using synonyms. So the dude is just funny. I don't know. I mean, and then he explains this. I like, and I have to give him, I have to give him credit for this, because Wes put him on the spot. Okay, can you summarize the book? And he went on for a few minutes describing, so he knows, he read the book. So, okay, for that, I can give him the credit. But how he connects all of this, and he's like, even the astrophysicists, some of them, would say that Earth is messed up and North and South Pole. I don't know anything about this. I don't know if that's true or not. And like these aliens, these entities are now on planet Earth and all these things. Are like, okay, but where is the line between reality and fiction? It's like, you're allowed to have your hypothesis and your ideas, and right? You can. We're not against spiritual stuff and paranormal. That's a big chunk of this podcast. But like, it's everything that you have is pseudo books and these supposedly ancient books that are not actually that old, or they're forgeries. Like, what else is there so that you can promote your material except this material that is many times suspicious? It's like that bothers me. Like, you're allowed to read them and assess them even as a Christian, but don't come and say like, oh, this is true and this is true and this is true and this is true. And like, okay, but again, like Wes would say, like, okay, but where's the evidence for that? It's like, it's like, I mean, it just doesn't seem good. On one hand, again, I marvel because supposedly Billy nearly died before this episode. He said, we'll see this in another video. He said that he didn't know that he's going to deal with the debate. He was dealing with severe pneumonia. They released him from hospital. He said he could have died. So he just came to have a friendly chat. If that's true, I feel bad for him and I wish him to get healed. I wish him to come to God. I wish him all the best in that regard. And I can also marvel that he was able, even in that condition where he is sick and his lungs are not feeling well, that he can memorize these things and speak about them. But dude, also, if you don't know something, just say, I don't know. Like, be honest about it. Don't spew out these things if they're facts. That bothers me. Would you like to say something on this?
So I haven't myself read the Enuma Elish or the Bail Cycle, right? And so I'm not an authority on that, and I don't have I don't have necessarily working knowledge of the contents. What I do know is that there are people who have read it and have commented on it. People like Dr. Heiser, who can read it in its original language, who have posted in the Naked Bible podcast where you can go to read it in English. You've had Paul on to do Babylonian mythology. And I do know that the idea that I think they're called the Anunnaki, come down from heaven. I think Heiser says that the Anunnaki are actually underworld gods. They don't come down from anywhere. They come up from under the ground. The idea that Nibiru is a planet that's a hidden planet in our solar system. I think that Heiser said that never once in the entire Enuma Elish is the word Nibiru found. So from my understanding of the contents, and again, I myself haven't read it. I'm far too busy and I'm not a scholar. But from my understanding, the little 5-minute thing that he just did there, I don't know if that comports at all to what's actually in there. I'm not convinced he's actually read it. What he did recount is things that I've heard about it, but then when you see stuff like what Heiser has put out, like, oh well, actually that's all like popular myth about what this actually is, and it doesn't contain any of that. It doesn't talk about that at all. So yeah, I'm not really convinced he's even aware of the contents of it. But I do think that that he ought to write a book, because what he explained there is fascinating. I'd love to see him expound that little fiction story, and I think that he would be good at it.
Yeah. Okay. The next short video is called "Billy Relies on Fake Gospel of Jesus's Wife and Admits It." Okay, so I also like that he is not completely hard-hardened, that he's able to admit his mistakes or his bad sources. I just wish that all those things, once when he's hit with all this data and good sources, that he would actually question himself and want it to be changed. I just wish that for him, but we'll see.
They discovered the book of Jesus' wife, which is at the Harvard Seminary. A little controversial, but they claim that this is an accurate record that Jesus may have even been married, which then that's true. It adds more to the hypothesis that maybe he wasn't crucified.
So the Gospel of Jesus' wife is in the Harvard Library. However, the reason we know it's also not legitimate is because even though the manuscript, the papyrus that it's on, was carbon dated to the 4th century, the text was actually copied from a PDF version of the Gospel of Thomas known as Grondin's Interlinear, and there was a mistake in the Coptic text of Grondin's Interlinear that was copied into the Gospel of Jesus' wife. We can tie it directly to not copying from an ancient text, but actually copying from an online version of the Gospel of Thomas in a PDF form. I think we need to make sure that we're going toward not just early sources, but actually credible sources. And unfortunately, neither the Gospel of Barnabas nor the Gospel of Jesus' wife are credible sources and agreed upon by not just the vast majority of scholarship, but I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography who actually refers to these documents as being legitimate.
That's fair enough. I can respect that. So let's go into the Old Testament a little bit. But they claim that this is an accurate record.
But I don't know anybody.
That's fair enough.
Okay, I can see the pattern here. At least what I like about Billy, that he's not raising his voice, he's not cursing, he's not threatening people, he's not being aggressive. Because sometimes you can have those people when you're debating. I saw in the middle of Christians and non-Christians, I saw a non-Christian getting upset with a Christian and leaving in the middle of the debate. You can have all these emotions there, and I can understand it because your whole heart, your whole set of emotions are right there, like based on the argument you're presenting and defending. So I like about Billy that he's like, oh, okay, well, thanks for sharing this. He's not trying to refute him, but also it's because he does not have enough weaponry in his armor, in his toolbox. He's like to share all these things and to combat back Wes. He's like, oh, okay, I thought this, thanks for telling me. So my point is, like, if Billy continues making mistakes and someone continues correcting him in love, like Wes does really wonderfully, I'm thinking, like, dude, where's the point where your heart will soften and say, hey, it's like, maybe I should learn something, because it's like, if these people are schooling me, it's kind of embarrassing. I would feel embarrassed if someone online, and this has been now seen by maybe even millions of people throughout the world, I would feel embarrassed, like, if this is not bringing any fruit or change in my life. Then it can, if someone does not want to change anything about themselves, it can be more a matter of pride and ego, which I'm not saying that Billy has. I don't want to assume the worst about him. I'm just saying, in all of us, could it be that what someone is saying, none of their words, none of their arguments are good? But then if they're good, then why are we not changing the way we present or teach some lessons? Because in a way, he is this ancient civilizations and ancient tablets, discoveries, whatever, teacher. He is a teacher, right? Dude, then you're responsible to change what you're teaching. And I know I'm repeating myself. I just want to say, like, Wes really scold him, and really in this spirit of love and truth, as Christians are supposed to. I don't know if I will be able to do the same, but I can only say, man, great job. Would you want to say something on this before we switch to how Billy started threatening Wes?
So I would be interested to see if in the future he continues using these arguments that have been just absolutely had their legs cut out from underneath them, right? So that would be for me, that would show that he's got a little bit of humility, and he's willing to say, yeah, I think when evidence demands, I have to change my opinion. Hopefully this is a case where he just was not aware of the scholarship at all, that the academic community was in an ivory tower somewhere. And so the only thing he's able to get a hold of is these popular books that don't actually contain any scholarship. And so now that he's actually talking to a scholar, I mean, it shows a little humility when he's just like, okay, fair enough. Like, yeah, no, I was wrong. But I'm hoping maybe he'll go back to his channel and will like release something saying, hey, I've been teaching this. I've been using this as a source, and it turns out it's not credible. But I wonder how much of that, if he has that desire, how much of that will be resisted by, well, I've kind of built my whole thing on this, and if I remove that, I no longer have a cohesive story anymore for how I understand the world. Yeah, I think it would be hard to be in his position. It would definitely be challenging. So yeah, we want to make sure that we don't say anything that can't be backed up, or at least that we can't point to a scholar who agrees with what we're saying.
Indeed. And now we're coming to the more sad part again, where Wes is admitting that Billy wants to sue him.
I debated Billy Carson. You heard that right. This isn't clickbait. I actually debated Billy Carson. Let me tell you about it. So last week, I got a message in my DMs from a podcast host saying he knew Billy and that Billy was going to be in his studio the next day, and asked if I'd be willing to come in and discuss some of the things that Billy has said very publicly about Christianity. Now, this particular podcaster lives in Florida. I live in Toronto, Canada. So with less than 24 hours notice, I just wasn't able to be in studio. But I did say that I'd be more than willing to hop on a virtual call and interact with Billy that way. And for the record, I also made it clear that I didn't want this to come across as some sort of trap or gotcha. If Billy was willing to interact with me knowing who I was, that's great. But I said specifically that I did not want this to be some sort of ambush. I was assured that this was not the case. I was being invited, Billy was being notified of that, and that we would have a respectful and good faith discussion. And as far as I'm concerned, that is in fact what took place. Now, we only talked for a little over an hour, and if I'm honest, I really wish we would have talked about more. Billy had to leave after that hour. He was upfront about that at the beginning, so he wasn't running away or anything. He actually had to go, and he had prefaced the conversation with that. There were about a dozen things that Billy has said very confidently on very public platforms about Christianity that are just simply false, and I wanted to push him on those things. Credible scrutiny only helps to refine and sharpen the truth. I want to be shown where I'm wrong and where I say things that are incorrect. And I think as long as it's done with proper intentions in the right way, doing that with others shows respect for them too. In my personal opinion, the conversation did not go well for Billy though. He really didn't have much of a rebuttal to what I said. And that didn't mean he didn't talk a lot. He did. But when I asked him about his sources, about the credibility, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders. When he said, as he's done on some of the world's biggest online platforms, that the Sinai Bible denies the crucifixion. And I pulled a literal facsimile of the Sinai Bible off my bookshelf and asked him why he would say that when I can clearly open up the Greek text in the Gospels, in the Sinai Bible, and find the crucifixion. His response was that he misspoke, that he really meant to say the Gospel of Barnabas or the Gospel of Jesus' wife. When I walked through why the Gospel of Barnabas and the Gospel of Jesus' wife are known forgeries from the modern era, he didn't have any type of answer. Now, in the wake of the interview, Billy Carson has asked that the recording not be released. And in all honesty, I do get why. This is Billy's bread and butter. His career as a content creator and public figure, and his credibility as an online educator are influenced by the way he comes across and the integrity and reliability of the topics he discusses. If that is put under careful examination and its truthfulness is undermined, that has consequences for Billy. Now, I don't know if that recording will ever see the light of day. I hope it does, but I don't know. But let me say that I trust the podcast host whose channel this took place on, and it is entirely his decision to post or not to post the content. I respect that, even if I do in fact want the interaction to be public. It's his podcast on his channel, and he has the right to agree with Billy's request. The fact that Billy doesn't want it to be posted clearly communicates to me that he also didn't think it went very well. Let me just finish by saying this. Billy says a lot of out there stuff, but among it all are just patently false things about the Bible and Christianity. I've made a bunch of content addressing these things and what Billy has said, and in it all, I hope what those interactions and responses reflect is not a personal attack on Billy. I can separate Billy Carson from the ideas he espouses, and I think that should always be our tactic. I debated Billy Carson. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only person who ever has. Maybe I'm the only person who ever will. And whether that gets posted or not, I think the fact that Billy doesn't want it to be posted also tells you how well Billy thought the conversation went.
Shaun, until I prepare the next video, would you like to say something on this?
Yeah, just kind of in that same vein of what I was just talking about. This is how he makes his money. So I don't see a path forward for him that's going to be honest with this unless he's willing to lose a lot of his subscribers. I'm certain that he is the people who love and admire him are also people who are hostile to Christianity and just the biblical canon itself. He's tried to undermine the biblical canon, or at least how we understand it, by pointing to these outside sources, and those two were in fact forgeries. But I can imagine if there was anything in early apocryphal texts that would bolster his opinion, he would appeal to those as well, because he doesn't seem to want to discuss the Bible as it is. He's wanting to draw from all of this extra literature. It would be interesting to see if he could try to make a case from using the scripts in our Bible and try to demonstrate in his understanding how this conflicts with what we believe. And of course, there's other people who try to do that. And as Christians, we have, certain methodologies of scriptural interpretation that we employ in order to get around some of these, or at least explain some of the apparent contradictions in a way that tries to harmonize the scripture as a whole. But yeah, I don't think that that him appealing to other stuff outside of the Bible is going to influence Christians. I think it's more it's drawing a crowd of people who already hate the Bible and hate what it teaches, and are either have been hurt by Christianity or are just have lifestyles that are antithetical to biblical Christianity.
So when all these things started happening last week, Billy made a 3.5-hour video where he was defending himself. He didn't know this was a debate. He was dying supposedly from pneumonia. All these Christians are now against him. I didn't watch the whole video. And then one of the things by the end of that video, he says, I have a big surprise for you guys, speaking to his audience. He's teaming up with some, I don't know what church and what denomination. I think it's a bishop. And they're going to together do the Bible studies. And I'm thinking, okay, he read the Bible. Maybe his extended family or family, parents, siblings, they have some Christian background. He refused that. I don't know the whole story. But I think he read it when he was younger and he refused for whatever reason. Maybe he thinks it's a forgery. But how do you think who gives you, I won't say right, but who gives you authority or credibility to dissect the Bible? Because you will have to be a scholar or theologian to do that in a proper way. And you're not one of them. That means that Billy, through these Bible studies, will be deceiving even more people that if they didn't hear about him, they'd be clicking, oh, there's a Bible study video, and look how many people are watching. This will be fun. I'll subscribe and I'm going to watch this guy. And this is how many seeds of doubt will be planted in their hearts. I mean, again, I would see myself as I'm like teaching a class on quantum mechanics, and maybe I've read a little bit, maybe I read one book, and I have such a small understanding, but I think I do. So this is reality. Reality is this, but I'm on this level. So I think I know much more, and I'm much more confident in my knowledge than there is. I read words and I think I know their meaning, even though I don't know. I see them in my light, in my context, but I didn't interview those book authors, those scholars. I will understand them and transform the meaning from my context, from my worldview. This is what he'll be doing. So I'm just concerned for the people who will be caught up in that. I don't know how to be too kind, not to say anything bad, but this will be another level of deceit that he'll be doing, because how can you be teaching and preaching on something if you're not familiar with it so much? He may be familiar a little bit, but inevitably he'll be deceiving people. Even if that's not on his heart, he'll be teaching them false things. He'll be probably going to say, oh, see this in the Bible? Well, we have these myths and this stories. The Bible took it from there. Eventually, the Bible will become everything that is actually not. And then people will start losing, their faith in God. Like, well, why do I need a Bible if it's just a forgery and a copycat of all these different things? Anyway, so now we're coming to another short video where Billy is threatening Wes Huff. And actually, there is even a video. I don't know if we'll see that section where after the debate, 2:30 or 3:30 in the morning, he went to the house of the guy, maybe a moderator or someone who put Wes and Billy Carson together. He went with this legal document from his lawyer. So Billy went at 2:30 or 3:30 in the morning, ringing the bell to this guy because he was so upset he couldn't sleep. He wanted him to give him this paper from his lawyer when it came to this debate. And I'm like, dude, that's messed up. He couldn't even wait for the next day. So something is really happening with his emotions that he just cannot give up on this. And I understand he can lose a lot. Money, audience, credibility, whatever. So this is one of the things where Wes is explaining this.
Billy Carson is attempting to sue me. For those of you who don't know, I was invited to interact with Billy on a podcast that he agreed to come on. It was not his podcast, where he was notified beforehand who I was and what we'd be talking about. After that debate took place, Billy attempted to suppress the footage. That didn't really work. I've released clips from that conversation. Well, Billy does not want you to see those clips and has sent me a cease and desist letter. I was really hoping that this could be an opportunity for Billy to learn, to see the major errors that he's been repeating and turn this into a learning experience. I even offered to follow up with Billy in order to show him how and where he could find accurate and credible resources in order to make sure that what he was saying was verifiably correct going forward in the future, so he and his audience could learn and proceed knowledgeably. Billy did not agree. But unfortunately for Billy, agreeing to a debate, losing that debate, and feeling embarrassed about that loss does not constitute legitimate grounds to litigate. Billy, I will agree to all the terms and conditions of the cease and desist letter that you have sent me if you agree to run it back, sit down with me in person, and have another discussion. This is my formal response.
Honestly, I would not even offer to delete the video. Why would they do that to please someone who is just trying to sue me? Like, seriously, did we come to that point that you want to sue me and I will delete my videos? I think that Wes is too kind. Shaun, let's say you're in Wes's shoes. Would you agree to delete that main video?
No, no, not at all. But that just shows Wes's character. Like I said, he just has this. I mean, obviously he's got his degree, and he's just has this teacher's heart where he just wants to sit Billy down and say, "Hey, look, man, I can tell that you've invested a lot of time in trying to build up this knowledge base that you have. But here's how you can vet your sources to make sure that they're actually credible sources." And so in a sense, he's trying to give Billy an opportunity to move his channel in a more positive direction of, just make sure that what you're saying actually has some sort of basis in reality, but definitely in the scholarship, right? And so I think that Wes just, I mean, stand-up guy. I wouldn't have the patience that he had. Anyone who watched the full debate that Wes recently posted, man, there's no way. I wouldn't have had the patience to be able to do that. It just such a wonderful man of God to be able to sit down and one, to do that, two, to be so patient with the moderator and with Billy, and three, to do that offer of, I mean, it reminds me of like the code of chivalry, right? Like, yes, I destroyed this guy, but it wasn't even like a win for me because I'm a scholar and he's not. So I just want to help him to create better arguments. Like, dude, that is just so gracious. So yeah, total props to Wes.
Yeah, and PJ is right when he says it's also a form of grace. Yeah. So it's not about like what Billy deserved or not, and do you owe to delete some videos because of Billy? It's like, it is form of grace. It's not like, oh, I beat you, I don't owe you anything, I'm done with you. This is like doing for someone, going the extra mile, and it's not up to like, do they deserve? Because we didn't deserve anything, and Jesus met us in our biggest brokenness, and when we were cursing him, hating on him, he still loved us. So Wes is really imitating the Jesus model, which I admire. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Anyway, I have two bigger videos left for the end, and I'm gonna play them with 125 speed. The next one is 27 minutes. No way we're gonna watch all that, even with 125 speed. So maybe we'll just watch a little bit. And this is actually a section from that 3.5 hour video which Billy released after the debate. But then Billy deleted that video. But I found a section of that video where he's lamenting and defending himself on this other channel called LIFE.REACTS. And again, I have mentioned all the YouTube channels in my episode channel in the description of the episode so that you can go, guys, and subscribe to these channels. So let us see what Billy was saying in his defense. Okay, I forgot to share the screen, my bad. I'm getting tired. Okay.
I'm about to react to this.
I didn't know I was going over there to do this kind of debate. I thought we were having a casual conversation on spirituality, and I wasn't really even fully in my right mind. I just almost died a few days before going to his house, literally.
Oh, yeah, I'm done. I'm out. Hey, you have fun with this. I'm out.
And so he took advantage of that. I'm on their tongue and their lips every minute of the day. When they go to sleep, they dream about me. When they wake up, the first thing they do before they kiss their wife or their boyfriend, they talk about me. They post me and call my name 24 hours a day, nonstop.
Come on, Billy.
They're absolutely infatuated with me. We're going to attack Billy Carson. We must do everything we possibly can, including making fake accounts, making bots and robot accounts to comment and hate and try to thumbs down videos and attack and threats against his 12-year-old child. Okay. I just got the IV bandage out. I was in the hospital with a severe case of pneumonia. And that pneumonia was so severe that it literally almost killed me. And my whole right side was completely full of bacteria. And then the left side was almost full. I had only 25% oxygen support. My body was going into septic shock. White blood cell count trending up towards 40. I lost 22 pounds and was.
And that's actually very sad. Of course, we don't want nobody to be ill and be out there, on their deathbed. But Billy, this has nothing to do with the stuff that you said. I hope he's not going to say, well, and because of all of this, I was up there misquoting sources and quoting forgeries and made it look like I didn't know what I was talking about. This is the reason why Wesley cooked me. Come on, man.
And some of the posts that she had made, people were commenting, that black guy, these are the Christian followers of this cult. That black guy looks like he's on drugs, and people commenting, yeah, he's on drugs, he's a dope addict, and all these crazy comments. This is how they uplift. This is the enlightened people.
But you guys see what I'm saying, though, right? He has to follow in line with what his wife said. He has to follow in line with what his wife said, or else it's going to be embarrassing.
These are the chosen ones, right? Well, I look sick in the video because I actually was sick. In fact, before the video started, I had a bottle of water, and I told him, look, you may have to stop this a couple times because I can't really breathe that well yet. My lungs are still recovering, and I coughed from time to time because I was trying to cough up still a little bit of phlegm in there from the pneumonia. After I got done with the IVs, they moved me on to the actual tablet or pill. You take these huge horse pills, and you got to keep taking those antibiotics until your lungs are clear. But it's still a long healing process, a 12-week healing process, and I got like a week and a half or two to go for this healing process. Now, why is that important? Why is that important to this whole thing? Well, because I wasn't even supposed to leave the house. I was extremely sick. I had just had a near-death experience in the hospital a few days prior, got released. I had been so sick for the 2 weeks leading up to the hospitalization, trying to get back to America, trying to stay alive. And then I'm bedridden, and I just feel like, man, I just got to get up and do something. I just can't lay down like this. I just can't do it. Like, for a person as active as me, it felt horrible. I felt like I was, completely useless. So I get a call from Mark. It's like, hey man, hop on the podcast, I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm like, that sounds like a good idea. Something I can do. And all I gotta do is go around the corner from my house. I don't have to even leave the neighborhood. I don't have to go on an airplane, which is what I usually have to do. I can just literally walk around the corner and go in his house. So that's what I did. My wife was extremely unhappy that I told her I was going to go over there. I said, I'll just be like 30 minutes or so. It won't be a big deal. He just wants to have a conversation. We're going to talk about some things. He got somebody else coming on. I really thought it was just going to be like a casual conversation about our perspectives on reality and our perspectives on religion versus spirituality. I really didn't know it was going to be any kind of a debate. Okay, it's more of an ambush situation. And I have all the text messages to prove this, which are going to be in the discovery for defendant number 1. Anyway, so I go over there. I'm a little gassed, but whatever. I'm just happy to be involved in anything at this point. I sit down. Get mic'd up and everything else. I get myself some water. I give him that warning about my coughing so that he knows, like, if you just pause it every now and then, you might have to edit the coughs out. Okay, I think that's on recording actually from the beginning of the video. They probably edited that out already, whatever. And then he brings on this guy on the screen, defendant number 2. So defendant number 2 comes on the screen. I have no idea who this guy is. I literally have no clue who this guy is. I don't know his name. I don't know who he is. I don't recognize him from anywhere. Some Joe Schmo off the street. I have no clue who this guy is. But whatever. He seemed like a nice gentleman. I thought we were going to have a really nice conversation.
He's the guy who knows pretty much more than you do when it comes down to Christian manuscripts.
Now, this whole time, I'm thinking this is just going to be a conversational-based thing. Not a big deal. I don't got to stress my brain. I don't got to think too hard. We're just talking. And then Mark gets this guy on the live feed, and he says, "Hey, we're going to have a little debate. I'm like, a debate? He's like, yeah, we're gonna talk about this, your perspective of religion and stuff and so on, whatever. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, okay, whatever. And so now in a debate, the way that this works, I've been in debates before, real debates, okay? Like from school, the debate club. I understand what a real debate actually is because I've actually been in actual real debates. There's a moderator, a person that moderates. The moderator, him or herself, does not interfere with the conversation. They don't interfere, you see? They don't commandeer the conversation. And the moderator is there to allow both parties to actually get a chance to talk and get their point across. But that's not what happened. What happened was, as we opened this up, the moderator asked the first question, not the defendant number 2. Okay. Now that's interesting. So I go, okay, this is from the jump. I'm like, well, that's kind of strange. If this is a debate, then it's supposed to.
It's so weird though, because the moderator was literally on his side. Like towards the end, the moderator was like posing so many complaints about how the Old Testament and Jesus kind of like conflict each other. And that's why he loves Jesus more. But if it was just for the Old Testament, he probably wouldn't even be a Christian. I mean, he was literally doing this during the debate. He was on Billy Carson's side when they started talking about the Old Testament. But what is he talking about? And from the beginning up until that point, Billy and Wesley were able to talk. Mark just sounded like a complete fool when he jumped in. He didn't like destroy the conversation. He just sounded like somebody who just didn't need to talk in that moment.
So the first thing he asked me is about the gospel of Jesus' wife. Okay, I think that was the first thing. It might have been the second thing, but it might have been the first thing. Either that or the Sinai Bible question. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I give my answer about the gospel of Jesus' wife, to what I knew about it. Not even a deep answer, just a very surface answer. I'm just like, whatever, man. I'm just surviving at this moment. And then the gentleman.
Come on, Billy. I'm just giving a whatever answer. Like, I'm just surviving at this point. Bro, get out of here with that, dude. What are you talking about, bro?
Defendant number 2, he comes back with all this rhetoric about it's a known fake and it's this and that and everything else and it's no good and it doesn't exist and blah, 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 or it's fake or whatever he's talking about. I'm like, okay, well, let me get my rebuttal in on this fakeness. But I never got a chance to get my rebuttal in because I had something very important to say about that, which I'm going to talk about tonight about the gospel of Jesus' wife.
So this is our credible sources and agreed upon by not just the vast majority of scholarship, but I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography who actually refers to these documents as being legitimate.
That's fair enough. I can respect that.
Look at that. He said, that's fair enough. I can respect that. And then moved on. This is when they were talking about the gospel of Jesus' wife. That's his response. That's fair enough. I can respect that. And then I remember he jumped straight into, he's like, okay, but let's talk about the Old Testament. So why is he lying like he didn't get a chance to respond?
And as soon as I say one thing, the other guy, defendant number 2, he's overriding and talking over me. I'm just sitting there patiently, just quiet, okay. You can see me.
That's not even true. If anybody watches the full, I'm glad the full was out. In the full video, Wes's connection didn't start tripping out until the end. And then Billy was like, I gotta. So that's not even true. I don't know why he's acting like every time he got to rebuttal, his connection was out.
This is one of the biggest cope fests I've ever seen in my life. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely.
So if it's this bad, why not let the debate go out and everybody see that this was contrived?
Right.
Why not let everybody see that and let everybody see, oh yeah, you know what, Wes was running. Oh yeah, it seems like, every time, why not let that show? That doesn't make any sense. But here you come, kind of tell us about it and man, don't tell me, but show me. Don't tell.
Show us. He's just talking about it.
This is bullcrap. I said, Mark, this is garbage, man. What you guys, this is set up. This is ridiculous. Every time I have something to say, he's disconnecting. Man, I can see him literally disconnecting his video manually. And only one time I got to ask a couple of questions, I could see him on his screen on Chat GPT trying to look for the answer real quick. Just a roundabout, ridiculous answer.
The guy whose website looks like this is on Chat GPT.
Oh, that's all from Chat GPT, bro.
Yeah, all of this.
Yeah, Chat GPT made those maps and those articles and those photos. And,
Yep. All this from Chat GPT, guys.
And I realized then that this was bogus
GPT
and unprofessional and something I would never want to be a part of. Absolute total trash.
I admit that the setup was garbage. I admit that he's right about that. The whole thing was just stupid. The moderator was dumb as a box of rocks. I agree, but you still said stuff that cooked yourself. So it doesn't matter.
I'm leaving, man. I gotta go. I have an air conditioning guy coming to my house. I have my mother-in-law coming into town, and something happened too. We have 5 AC units, and I don't even know which one of them is acting up.
Now about the AC.
Hey, he got 5 AC units. That's why he's there. Sinai Bible didn't contain the crucifixion, man.
I'm not going to disappointment for this trash. This is garbage.
Hey, man, why did you say the Sinai Bible didn't doesn't mention the crucifixion? I got 5 AC units.
My ACs. And my mama, she was coming through.
My mama and them, they was, you know, on the
They was
way.
around. They was
Feel
around.
me? I just couple AC units went out. I don't know. I got 5 ACs. I didn't even know which one went out.
Hey, I'm thinking about my ACs. I'm thinking about my mama. Man, a lot going on, you know.
Mashallah, Habibi.
I didn't sign any kind of release form. I never gave any authorization or consent. Luckily, because that now makes the video illegal to use with my likeness, my face, my voice. Any form, any shape or form. Even if it's just a 10-second clip. Even if it's 1 second of me, I did not consent. Why? Because it's unprofessional, and I knew they were going to utilize it to show me in some type of a negative light for their own self-gain, for some type of clout chasing.
I do agree with that point. The problem is that it went out. So yeah, you can cry and complain about it getting out, but no one is like against you by saying, hey, if you went here and you didn't want this out, you know, who cares? Forget you. The issue is that it just got out. So now you have to deal with the consequences of what you said on the podcast. We all can agree if you do something and you don't want it out, but it still gets out. Respectfully, dude, that's your fault. This is crazy, dude. The cope is insane right now.
Yeah, this is pretty bad, man. I'm not gonna lie. This is not a good move.
I get back to the house, I'm extremely pissed off and angry. I can barely breathe. I normally take the elevator upstairs when I was sick in my house.
I normally take the elevator in my house. You know, so how can I not mix up Sinai and Gospel of Barnabas?
I can't believe
elevator in my house, bro.
This is happening.
I didn't take the elevator in my house, so come on.
Like,
wouldn't you mix up a source if you didn't take the elevator in your house?
I would. That's what I'm saying. I would.
Thank you.
I would.
I normally take the elevator up, but I was so pissed off, and I took the staircase up to the loft where my wife was sitting. When I got to the top of the staircase, I was so exhausted I couldn't even breathe. I didn't know I was going over there to do this kind of debate. I thought we were having a casual conversation on spirituality, and I wasn't really even fully in my right mind. I just almost died a few days before going to his house, literally.
Oh, get out! I'm out. Hey, you have fun with this. I'm out.
And so he took advantage of that. Goodness sake, my son has slept in this guy's house, you know? So I go over there at his behest, begging me to come over. I got all the messages. And I meet him at his house. His wife is home. His son is home. His son's eating a shake at the table, drinking the shake at the table, a smoothie or something. His wife is in the kitchen, heating some food up that she got from our chef. Our chef became their chef.
Oh my God.
Again, just showing the connection there. I've had a chef for 10 years, and
the flex.
They like the food from coming over and eating the food at our house, and now they share our chef.
We got some food for our chef.
We got some food for our chef.
From our chef.
He agreed to not release anything of my footage.
Oh, okay.
Gentleman's handshake. It didn't look good for him or me. It was very unprofessional, very clownish, very childish. And if somebody edits it, it's going to look really one-sided and stupid.
I understand you did a gentleman's handshake and et cetera, but my guy, you had a conversation with Wes, you talked about things, and it got out. Now, is the other guy wrong for posting this conversation? Yes, I agree with that. I agree with what Billy is saying. If he told him after he had this conversation or after he came to his house and got on this podcast and had a conversation with Wesley or whatever, if he said, hey man, I don't like how I went, it's a little sloppy, I would like it to be a little bit better than that, and the guy agreed to not post it and still posted it, yes, that's wrong.
He says that they're attacking him. He's under a lot of pressure. This guy is really scared now. I'm like, what kind of pressure can you be under for a damn clumsy video that was horrible? Guys disconnecting 5-6 times in the video. He's half the time he's not even on the screen. You're talking too much. I can't get a word in. I look frustrated. I can't say what I want to say. I'm walking out. Like, what is so frustrating about this video? So raggedy. I don't care if it was legitimate. I wouldn't even put any crap like that because it looks stupid. It makes us look like we're amateurs. The next thing I know, video's out. I'm actually sleeping in my movie theater in my house. I have a movie theater. I'm sleeping in the movie theater.
Come on,
I kind of
Billy.
passed out watching the game that.
Come on, Billy, with the flex. I'm actually sleeping in. When this came out, I'm actually sleeping in my movie theater. My movie theater, man. I'm just in my movie theater sleeping, and then the video comes out. Yeah.
The information about the Sinai Bible, which has a lot of differences than the King James Version of the Bible. It's also called the Codex Sinaiticus. And what I had said in
Okay, I'll just stop here and I'll fast forward when he's announcing big news. Oh, that may not be in this video. Let me see. Yeah, he's just showing his sources, whatever. But we'll cut to this point because I have one longer video by the end. But yeah, at the end of this video, which he deleted, he's like, hey, I'm announcing this Bible studies coming. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're the last person on the planet that should be doing Bible studies. Anyway, this video was hilarious for so many ways because especially those two brothers, they're the hosts of this channel. They're like so funny. But also, Shaun, I mean, is it just me, or if someone would tell me I was in the hospital, I had near-death experience? Okay, if someone would tell me they had near-death experience, I would think they were in coma, they were seeing angels, ghosts, spirits, and they had some supernatural story. He basically meant I almost died. Yeah, okay, and I'm sorry for that if that's true, but that's not a near-death experience. Like, that made me think, like, in myself, like, he's using bad words. If he's using, I mean, wrong words, if he's using wrong terminology for that, of course he'll use wrong terminology when it comes to the Bible and like theology. He knows bits and pieces, but then he's trying to put all together in the from his point of view and add what's missing in his knowledge to try to connect the dots. And then the package is like a combo of all of these things that at the end it's not tasty. It's garbage. It's like eating fast food that it's not even tasty. It's not just not nutritious. It's garbage. It's gonna pollute you and destroy you from the inside. You don't even know that. So, like, is there anything you would like to add based on this video that we just observed when he's defending himself?
Those guys are hilarious. I mean, honestly, those guys are so funny. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I agree with them. I don't understand why he's trying to flex. Like, yeah, I normally take the elevator in my house, and you know, I got a home theater, or I got a movie theater in my house, like,
and 5 ACs.
That's got to do with it. Like, why are you coming up with all this? I mean, you got owned. It is what it is. We all get burned sometimes. But yeah, nothing that he's saying is relevant to the discussion of why he was saying the stuff that he was saying, which is stuff that he had. I mean, we've seen from the videos, stuff that he has been teaching for a while now. So it's not like, oh, a slip of the tongue, I said the wrong thing. It's, no, you're not credible. And the sources that you have claimed to have been using, even in other videos from before you were dying, that they're not relevant. I mean, they're not valid. Like, yeah, Wes beat you, and just own it. Take it like a man. I mean, go cry in your movie theater, bro. Like, you lost.
Or take constant elevator rides in your home up and down until you get like, tired.
Yeah, no, I mean, you lose a debate. I'll hope and pray that your fifth air conditioner gets working. But yeah, no, it sucks for you.
You know, I think that he said it. Now I'll be his lawyer, so I'll try to defend him. I think when he said that he took the stairs instead of the elevator, I think and then he was saying he was losing his breath. I think he was saying in the context of, look, I'm still dealing with pneumonia and I made a mistake. I didn't take the elevator. I was taking stairs. So my breathing was even worse when I got home. I think it was in this context, not to brag that he has a big house that needs the elevator, but just those two African-American brothers, they're co-hosting that channel. They made it even funnier. Like, oh, stop flexing like you have a big house and you have money. They made it funnier. But I understood from the beginning that he was speaking from that perspective. I took the stairs because, you know, and that was a foolish decision because it made his lungs work extra and he was fighting for his breath. So yeah, I think he was hanging that. Yeah.
So I think the context that he was trying to say, and I think it was kind of effective if it wasn't so funny, was that, you know, I wasn't even in my right mind. So I couldn't have consented to do this debate legally because I wasn't in my right mind. Which, okay, like, maybe that is a legal argument of I wasn't in my right mind. Therefore, you know, I withdraw my consent, and you can't legally put this out there. But don't try to use that as I wasn't in my right mind, so that's the reason he got me. No, you got God because you suck. Like, you just, with your arguments, they're not good. It's not based on real sources. So yeah, maybe he has a legal argument, but he doesn't have a scholarly argument. And so the way that he was trying to put it in the video, which is not at all how the actual debate went, of, oh, well, he wouldn't let me respond, and then he was all like, it seems like he's trying to explain why he did so poorly in the debate, but none of what he's saying is relevant to that fact.
And also, if the guy who invited him, who's the host, who's the middleman, the moderator, if he didn't tell him, hey, it will be you know, a debate, or like, be ready because this guy is like an apologist, historian, he knows a lot. it also sucks that he didn't prepare him in a way, mentally, intellectually. So, it sucks if that's true, but I mean, still, like, imagine a professor or a pastor being ill and someone calling them 2, 3 in the morning and say, "Hey, pastor, how do we get saved?" Do you say, "Well, you have to go to Jerusalem and walk 13 times around the ruins of the temple"? That would be that would not be an excuse for you not remembering the way of salvation. Tell people, repent, save. It's by God's grace that you receive through faith. You should know this if you're sick or not sick. So I can understand Billy to a certain degree. He wasn't prepared. But if you're an expert, such an expert in these things, regardless of your fatigue, regardless of your near-death experience, like he says, you can't just forget all of these details and say, "Oh yeah, I misspoke. Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, this." I mean, to a certain level, I can defend him and understand. But then after a certain, when you cross the line, like I gave the example with this passage, like, dude, you can't forget basics. Like, we're talking about some of the basic stuff, like the Sinai Bible. Like, you were saying Sinai Bible even before you got sick for years. Why not using the proper way? And it's a small detail, but it matters. For scholars, for academics, it matters. For a layperson, doesn't matter. But if you're well-known and a public figure, you owe it to your audience to be correct. Okay, so this is the last video. It's the most saddest video because we have this former associate and former friend of Billy Carson who's been knowing him and working with him and for him for many years. He came out recently and made this 2-hour video. We're just going to see a few sections here and there so we can learn more about Billy and give context of why he's who he is and the road that made him that way and believe certain things and rejecting Christianity. So, yeah, let's start watching this. We'll start with 722, and the YouTube channel is named according to this guy, who again used to be his friend, called Anton Wisbiski. So I believe it's a Polish last name. So let's watch a little bit and then we'll comment later.
Did you want to share the screen? No?
And again, I forgot to share. Okay, sorry for that.
You're good.
Okay.
He's left. So why now? Why am I making this video now? Well, Billy's trying to sue me. And he's trying to sue me because I got him on a podcast with a real historian who debunked all his BS in terms of Christianity.
Says that maybe he wasn't crucified.
Yes, the debate freaking took place with Billy Carson and Wesley Huff. Yeah. Can't go on. We can do a follow-up.
I really appreciate it, Billy. Thanks so much for interacting.
Billy talks about being emotionally stable, and when things go wrong, you got to take care of business.
There's going to be obstacles. I just had an obstacle thrown at me yesterday. Some crazy crap happened from somebody that I really thought was a close friend. I really honored this person and thought that they were actually a really, really close friend, to the point where I even invited this person to my own wedding. And I only had 14 people at my wedding. So that tells you how tight that circle is.
I wonder why your circle's so tight, Billy. Is it because you actually have no friends, or is it because you've changed your identity and people catch on to your grift after so many years? Because it's pretty easy to catch on to.
And this person did some diabolical, backstabbing stuff just yesterday.
Diabolical backstabbing. Billy, please explain to me how getting somebody on an interview with you, which we told you about, is diabolical and backstabbing. You knew exactly what you were walking into, but you were probably too lazy to do your own research because clearly you don't know how to do that. And you didn't look up who Wesley was. And because you came face to face with a real historian and linguist, the fraudulent documents you like to claim as truthful have nothing to stand on. And you didn't like that you got exposed. And because you got exposed for knowing nothing about Christianity, you freaked out. You freaked out so much that you were knocking at my client's door at 2:30 a.m. in the morning.
Now I got to handle that situation.
With legal papers, acting like you have the power to enforce some type of "you got served." You guys, this is the type of person Billy is. Like, he does have a brain injury, so maybe there is something like literally wrong with him. I don't know. But this is like crazy behavior. My client has kids. He has a family. You got this guy walking up at his house at 2:30 in the morning because of a debate that he posted. that, by the way, wasn't even that bad. I mean, it was bad because Billy doesn't know what he's talking about, but there wasn't like arguments, and Wesley was very kind and he could have pushed way harder and he didn't. So Billy, bro, was it diabolical or is what you're doing diabolical?
But at the same time, my mind went right into solutions mode. What's the solution to this problem and how can I do it? How can I take care of the situation?
The solution is to pretend you're a lawyer and knock at my client's door at 2:30 in the morning.
How can I take care of the situation? Which I've already worked on last night while it happened.
No, you sure did, Billy. You sure did work on it the other night.
I didn't wait and think and sob and, oh my goodness, I can't believe this person backstabbed me like this and why is this happening to me?
Backstabbed you? Please show me where the backstabbing occurred.
Yes, I processed the anger and the...
Billy, there's nothing to process. There's literally nothing to process. You agreed to an interview with Wesley. There was no bait and switch. You knew exactly what you were walking into. We told you we were going to talk about religion, but you don't know what you're talking about. And because you finally stepped foot in front of somebody who knows what they're talking about, you were exposed for who you really are. So let's talk about Billy's credentials. I mean, he did go on Joe Rogan talking about how he got into all this stuff.
Next morning, and I told the teacher I have to go to the library inside the school, Rainbow Park, and I said, I need to get all the encyclopedias on aerospace. And she gave me the encyclopedias on aerospace. And that's when I started researching from that exact moment.
Wow.
And I haven't stopped since.
So you were, how old? 8?
7.
7 years old. Oh my God.
So he claimed he was 7 with Joe, but with Wesley and Mark.
But since I was 6, I was studying aerospace.
Now, could that be an honest mistake? Sure. But if you're going on Joe Rogan, I would really highly encourage you to have your stories and facts in order. So what are Billy's real credentials? He claims.
And you studied at both Harvard and MIT?
Harvard was for ancient civilizations. I took a class and got a certificate in ancient civilizations. And MIT, I took a class in applied neuroscience and got a certificate in applied neuroscience.
Okay, so he says he goes to Harvard. And when you hear these words originally, most people are like, oh yeah, like he graduated from Harvard. Billy Carson did not graduate from Harvard. Billy Carson did not graduate from MIT. Billy Carson took a free class that any human being can take on ancient civilizations at Harvard and neuroscience at MIT. But he's going to push that in your face like that's something you can't do. This is a recent comment. He tells his followers, nah, Google me. MIT Applied Neuroscience, Kane University, Quantum Physics, Harvard Ancient Civilizations. In the class I'm teaching here, I'll provide you all the sources. Y'all, listen up. You can literally go take these classes at Harvard yourself. This is nothing to be proud of. I mean, and by the way, this is all recently. So clearly he's starting to realize people are catching on to his grift. This is not impressive. And why does his Harvard University credentials say he went to school for 3 years? He says he went for 3 years, but the course he says he took only takes 1 year. Did it take him 3 years to take one year course? That's crazy if so. Or is he just trying to skew the perception of who he really is to continue his grift? That is a question I do not know how to answer. I'll let you decide. He forgot to mention the part where he was an actor.
Over dry the beard because that can create itching and irritation.
But Billy, despite his quote unquote education, he also claims he's a scientist.
You know, when I go a lot of places, because I'm 6'4", a lot of people, did you play basketball? Did you play football? What do you do for a living? I tell them, I'm a scientist. I'm a scientist. That's what I tell people. And you got just to see the look on a lot of these people's faces when you first tell them that. They're like, huh? A scientist? Like they're completely shocked. Like, this black guy just told me he's a scientist. You can see it in their face.
Billy, my friend, science doesn't really care about your feelings. Yet, based off your own words, you like to base your research off what you feel it is.
And they ask me questions, I'll continue to try to educate them on what I believe or show them the way that I feel it is.
This is literally the definition of being emotional, which you claim you aren't. But based off your actions and how you do your research, you're clearly emotional. You have no idea what a real scientist is like. Let's talk about Billy's past. He also claims he's not a criminal. And you'll hear him say this a lot. He even made a video back in 2023 to debunk the allegations that certain people had started putting out about him, about that he spent time in jail, about that he was arrested for identity theft, and all these different things that he claimed are not true. He put a video out about it. I unfortunately, I can't find the video. The reason he probably deleted it is because he probably tried to debunk something that was actually true. And probably Elizabeth or somebody close to him was like, dude, you can't have this out here because this is a lie. So the video's gone. I found that very interesting. For somebody who prides himself as being honest and transparent and, a thought leader and all these different things. But when I looked into it, not only is Billy a criminal, but he lies to people about being a criminal. Let's take a look.
That's a bit. 3 months. 3 months.
That's a year. If you innocent, 3 months is a fucking year. That's it.
I went on a trip with a friend of mine to Georgia a long time ago. We were kids, basically. And
a kid, you were 31 years old. This was in 2002.
He had some marijuana in the back of his trunk. He had not even a lot. I mean, it was personal use. It was less than an ounce. It was in his speaker box. We get pulled over going into Georgia. So they pull us over and everything else. He forgets he has it in there. It's so old that it's dry rotted, I guess, and they searched it. They found this dry rotted, bud in the back of the trunk.
So Billy, it wasn't marijuana. It was cocaine. That's a big difference. And unfortunately, somebody tried to wipe this clear of the internet, clearly, because it's very hard to find details on this. But I dug these details up over 2 years ago. They've gotten harder since.
And they took us down to the local, the local police department, the local jailhouse. And they kept us in there for 3 months waiting to go to trial. He had given a statement that this guy was just a friend of mine, a passenger in the car and everything else. People were begging to get out of there just to go to prison. But it was a hell of an experience for me to be able to be around those people. I became like the leader in there, of course, dropping knowledge on people and getting people's minds right and everything else. And people, the hardest core criminals and stuff in there were like, hating to see me leave, literally tearing up when I got out of there. Obviously, they had to let me go because I didn't do the
3 months?
3 months. 3 months just to go. That's what they do. It's a business. It's a business.
It almost feels like you just needed to experience every single thing for no reason, just so that you could relate to the rest of the world.
I already knew that. That's exactly what it was. I had been through that situation, which of course I was completely exonerated. I have no criminal record. Matter of fact, I just got my concealed weapons license. But I'm a Team USA basketball coach, so there's no record there. But being able to be around those people and experience them at that level and talk to them on the level that they were at and understand what they were going through, and then to be able to talk to them and take their mind to a whole other level. Some of those people looked me up when they got out of prison down in Miami, and we linked up again, and they were like, I did this, I changed my life here, I changed my life there, all from just me helping them find a way to look inside and elevate their consciousness. So it was a great. People would look back at that experience in their life and be like, I can't believe this happened to me, and cry about it and whine about it. I'm thankful for it because it gave me another perspective of life that I probably would have never seen. And it gave me the ability to relate to people that have gone through that or been through that system on a level where I can directly talk to them. They understand, I know exactly what's happened, how they felt about it. And also I can give them a step-by-step process on how to elevate themselves and not even have to worry about ever going back. That was a great experience, man.
Do you see what our greatest teachers have to go through to teach? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's almost karmic. It's like you have to go through something. Even if you walk in a straight line, you still have to feel that diversity to see if you can face the challenge so people can learn from you.
Right. Now, I find this whole thing he's telling Dame Dash very interesting. I'm actually curious if this is where the idea of forbidden knowledge came from. The dude went to jail and was apparently inspiring the criminals inside the jail. And apparently, after he got out of jail, people looked him up and told him about what they shared with him in jail inspired them. Now, I'm all for, inspiring people. I have a past too. Everyone's got a thing in their past. I have no problem with that. My problem is the lies. But I just can't help but wonder, is this where Billy got the inspiration for forbidden knowledge? Obviously, that's just my speculation, but that's very disingenuous because he probably told those people he had nothing to do with this crime and the cocaine and whatever else, but clearly there was clearly something to do with it. Whether he took a plea or something else, I don't fully know. I cannot find those records, but something happened. This was a serious charge. I want to give Billy the benefit of the doubt here, but he didn't learn his lesson. And I know he didn't learn his lesson because this happened in 2002 with the cocaine. And by the way, he says he was virtually a kid.
A kid. You were 31 years old. This was in 2002.
So to play this off like you were like 18 years old is just very disingenuous. And clearly you didn't learn your lesson because in December 2013, you got arrested for fraud. Here is Billy's court records that I pulled up from the Broward County website. On December 18th, 2013, the defendant, William Carlson, this was before he changed his name, was arrested for using a fictitious ID in the card in the name of Charles Rubin to fraudulently open a Chase checking account at Chase Bank. So following in the vehicle center console, this is what was found. A Florida driver's license in the name of John Black Knight. Okay, so that's not Billy. An Amex Costco card found in the name of John B. Knight. I don't need to read all of it. You can see it right here. But he says, after waiving his Miranda rights, William Carlson admitted to opening the 2 Amex accounts, the American Eagle account, the Barclays account. He advised that he has never used the real identity information of another person to open the accounts. Further investigation revealed. In 2013, the defendant opened at least 6 credit accounts, 6, using Tony Bellamy's real social security number without his authorization. For each of the 6 accounts established, Tony Bellamy's name, date of birth, phone numbers, address were not used. Each credit account had an account balance. The following names and dates of birth were used in addition to the social security. Wow. Long story short, I'm pretty sure he ended up going to the jail. Here he goes. I read defendant Miranda rights via card, which he waived and admitted that the license was fictitious. Defendant advised that he purchased the license off of the street in Miami. This is 11 years ago. Not even. Yeah, it's literally like almost exactly 11 years ago. Defendant advised that his credit is bad and could not open an account under his real name. Defendant signed consent form to search his vehicle, where I found another Florida driver's license in the name of John Black Knight. I also found a Florida power light bill in the vehicle with the name Charles Rubin on it. Defendant advised that he printed out a bill on his computer and changed the name. Defendant also advised that in the past, he changed his birth name from Billy Carson to his current name. Carson also changed his name. His real name is William Carlson. Why would someone have to change their name? Alias name, Carson Billy Camrick. Alias name, Carson William Tyrone. Charged for fraud. Here you go. Here's the arrest information. And, you know, I could go on and on. I don't need to be a freaking detective here. You can go download this stuff if you want, but you get the idea. This is Billy Carson. This is Forbidden Knowledge. It's the same guy. And he makes a video that is now deleted trying to say this isn't him. Yeah, you can look up all his records. Broward County, look it up. It's all there. I'll put some screenshots so you can check it out yourself.
Oh my God. Shaun, this was a combo of sad and funny. Before I fast forward to another section, what would you like to say? And I mean, we're not going after him as again, we hate him or something, but look, if you would check the context of anything or anyone in your life, and you see red flags and you see something that should warn you, why would you think that someone who has a history of repeating certain type of criminal offenses would come to you with this forbidden knowledge that he and only few selected ones on the whole planet knows, and come to teach you these deep secrets? Why would you think that this person is suddenly credible for taking 1 or 2 online classes? It's like, I hope people will wake up, not to hate the guy, but to just reject his teachings and his videos and books. So Shaun, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of shocking, but at the same time, it's not surprising, right? I mean, if somebody's willing to purposely mislead all of these people, whether or not he's misleading them in what he's saying, he's misleading them in thinking that he's a teacher. Obviously, he's not a credible teacher. He knows that he is not a Harvard graduate. He knows he's not an MIT graduate. He knows that he's, been convicted of these charges. It's to me, it's ridiculous. I mean, I was going to say before in this video that it's like the Billy Carson trifecta. He's either, the trilemma. He's either liar, lunatic, or lecturer. I think it's pointing a lot more towards he might be a lunatic. Like, I mean, maybe the head injury has something to do with it. He's just a sociopath. He just doesn't care. Like I said, it's shocking to see, not because you would expect him to be credible, but it's always shocking to see when somebody is, on the other side of the law, has, changed their name, has this really muddled past. That's always kind of shocking, but it's not surprising given the character that we've seen of Billy Carson, that he's somebody who's just willing to lie, willing to fabricate, make stuff up. When he gets any pressure, it's, he immediately shuts down. But then when he's in front of a camera by himself, he's going to recreate all the events in a way that portrays him in the best light. So he's just a liar who takes no accountability, and that comports with his criminal record.
Yeah, sad. Okay, let's see one more segment, and then we have the last one, and we'll be done for tonight.
Oh, Billy's, I would argue, probably his most important grift, and that is to attack the figure of Jesus Christ. Now, you don't have to be a Christian. I personally am a Christian. I'm proud to be a Christian. I was not always a Christian. I spent 13 years of my life deeply involved in the occult, and I'm no longer a part of any of that stuff. And now I'm a Christian. And Billy was actually one of the people that inspired me to not be a Christian. Not directly, but indirectly through a lot of his content, because he talks very confidently and makes some very bold claims about the figure of Jesus. And a lot of people believe him.
This religion has got to come to an end because it's a farce. And I've been studying this Bible and doing book reports on the Bible since the age of 3 years old. And, the Lord's my shepherd, I give you all these prayers and verses off the top of my dome because I did them so many times.
Right.
And so, just doing that, it became a part of me. I understand, like, okay, well, there's something here, but at the same time, because I studied it so well, I recognize a lot of discrepancies.
Through a lot of his content, because he talks very confidently and makes some very bold claims about the figure of Jesus. And a lot of people believe him.
This religion has got to come to an end because it's a farce. And I've been studying this Bible and doing book reports on the Bible since the age of 3 years old. And, you know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not. I give you all these prayers and verses off the top of my dome because I did them so many times.
Right.
And so, you know, just doing that, it became a part of me and understand like, okay, well, there's something here, but at the same time, because I studied it so well, I recognize a lot of discrepancies that didn't make any sense to me before I came across the ancient tablets.
Right.
Billy claims that he's been doing Bible reports since he was 3 years old.
And I've been studying this Bible and doing book reports on the Bible since the age of 3 years old.
First of all, most 3-year-olds can't even read, let alone do Bible reports. And for somebody who's been doing Bible reports since they're 3 years old, I would expect them to know the Bible a little bit better. But he really has no idea what he's talking about. So I'm just going to go through and look at these a little bit closely because Billy claims Jesus traveled from Israel to Tibet. Okay. Jesus' lost years from the Bible start from the age of 12. So logistically, to get to Tibet from Jerusalem, you have to go through the Himalayas. This video is a little bit closely because Billy claims Jesus traveled from Israel to Tibet. Okay. Jesus' lost years from the Bible start from the age of 12. So logistically, to get to Tibet from Jerusalem, you'd have to go through the Himalayas, you'd have to go through deserts, you'd have to go through mountain ranges, like let alone knowing how to get there. This one's a stretch, bro. No historian will tell you this is true because just logistically, the travel is like 3,000 plus miles on foot, and Jesus is a child. Come on, man. Alexander the Great didn't even really make it that far per se. And that was like over, I think, 10 or 11 years of his journey. And he had resources at his disposal, like engineers and support. You know, this guy wasn't traveling alone. So to think this like little 12-year-old Jesus is hucking through the mountains and traveling 3,000 miles on foot there and back, come on, bro. So not only is it just absolutely insane to think that Jesus could ever do something like that, but also there's no connection in his teachings between Hinduism and Buddhism. You know, I studied with Shaolin monks when I was young, so I got a really firsthand experience with the power of Buddhism and those teachings and those kind of Taoist type philosophies. But then when I got a little bit older, I studied with Indian and Hindu gurus. Literally, I sat with gurus, they put their hands on my head and initiated me into all types of Hinduist stuff. And I had profound experiences. I won't say I didn't. But what I learned is that, you know, Buddhists and Hindus, their whole thing is like dissolving suffering, unifying with God or source or Brahman. And life is really about ending suffering. And they believe you do that through, I mean, there's a lot of methods, but one method is yoga, another method is meditation. There's a lot of ways to do that. And they have a whole system to do this. But, you know, I studied in those systems for over a decade of my life. So I'd say compared to the average person, I have a much better understanding about Hinduism than somebody who's just like an everyday Christian. Now, I became a Christian, and I could say that not only is it highly unlikely that Jesus studied with these people, if he did, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he went to Tibet. Let's say he went to India. Let's say he learned the Egyptian mysteries. If he did, his teachings directly contradict them in every way, like literally in every way. The way of Christ is to really repent from your sins, to separate yourself from sin so you can move closer to God and the one true God. And also, Jesus never talks about getting rid of suffering per se. Jesus himself is a suffering God. Okay, so this is one of the biggest distinctions between Hinduism and Buddhism and Christianity, is that in Hinduism and Buddhism, you know, you're trying to do things with your actions, with your thoughts, with your energy, with your consciousness to move more towards God. Like you're trying to move up towards God. In Christianity, God actually came down to us and he showed us the way. And if we put our faith in him and we believe in him, through his grace, we're saved. We don't necessarily have to do anything besides repent and turn away from our own life. So our old life. So it's a whole different philosophy. There's no talk of ending suffering. Like Jesus himself suffered. And, you know, people believe he did that because he wanted to bond with us. He wanted to manifest himself into creation to relate with you and I and walk and live a humble human life and then literally die and experience death and then overcome it like as a human. So he suffered, you know, he got whipped, he got hated on, he got literally killed on a cross. So no Hindu god is doing stuff like that. Like Buddha is not doing stuff like that. Like sure, there's some similarities, but the similarities are generic. They're not specific in any way between the gods. So I just wanted to point that out because I studied this stuff extensively. There's just everything about Christianity and Hinduism and Buddhism are different. So if Jesus did learn from those gurus, he rejected their teachings clearly. Billy has gone on the biggest shows in the world, like Joe Rogan, Patrick Bet-David, Andrew Schultz, and denied things like the crucifixion. I actually don't think he did that on Joe Rogan, but he did do it on Andrew Schultz. I know that for sure, maybe Patrick Bet-David. But Billy claims he'll debate anybody.
Who have you debated?
Whoever
And
debate.
have you ever had like a public debate with anybody? Like it's on YouTube, we can see, or no?
I haven't had a public debate. There's only one person that wanted to debate me, but he only wanted to debate me so that he can clout chase.
Is he a big name or no?
Well, he's not a big name. He's trying to become big, but I looked him up first. I researched him before I disagreed to do it, and found out that he had did some things like he had sexual abuse on a 19-year-old minor. And I'm like, why would I make a guy like this famous?
Who is this guy? Is it another YouTuber or?
Yeah, I won't give his name because
okay. You're open to debating anybody.
I'm open. Yeah.
Okay. So if we set up anything with anyone else that's maybe expert in the area of topic that you're okay with a panel like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
Billy claims he'll debate anybody. Yet when we set up a debate with him with Wesley Huff, he huffs and puffs and threatens us with lawsuits because he's terrified people will see it. So
Okay, Shaun, would you like to comment on this second section, and then we'll just cover 10 minutes or less the last section, and we'll be done.
Well, as far as I know, 19 years old is not a minor, right? I mean, sexual abuse of a 19-year-old minor. Yeah, no, that's not a minor in any state that I'm aware of. But yeah, I mean, if nobody's willing to debate you, I honestly can't even imagine that, because as many people have been reacting to his videos. I mean, I'm pretty sure Michael Jones will debate pretty much anybody. He's got a book author, which means he falls under the criteria that James White will debate him, and James White is a rabid debater. He'll debate anybody. So yeah, I just don't take that seriously that nobody would debate him. I mean, this guy is. I think he's high on his own stuff. He thinks that the lies that he's telling are true, and they're just not.
Yeah, I also like how Anton showed us on his YouTube channel the world map. He was saying, okay, let's see where's India, where's Egypt, let's see where's Jerusalem or Israel. And he said, do you think Jesus as a child will be able to travel this far? I mean, like, come on, dude, it's not logical, doesn't make sense. So I like that section, and I like how he's in a friendly way. Like, dude, we used to be friends, and you discouraged me, and you discouraged so many people from pursuing Christianity because I trusted you. I thought you're credible, and you were telling us that Jesus is this, and that. And why would I want to be a man of God? I would rather pursue, like he used to, in his life, pursue Eastern religions, mysticism, New Age. Because he would think that Christianity is just a fable. So it's like, it's something in Billy's life, and I hope we'll learn more of the context of his childhood and growing up. Why would he turn his back on Christianity? So that really bothers me for his own sake. I don't gain or lose any. I don't gain or add something on my life if Billy rejects God or comes to God. I wish that he comes to God. But I'm just like, why do you keep telling these things? Because there's so many Christian apologists and theologians answering those questions, Billy, that you imply that they're true when it comes to the Bible and other mythologies and religions. I don't know. I wish him all the best. I wish he comes to God, and I wish he gets completely healed from his pneumonia. Okay, this is the last section that we'll be watching.
So that's less than 1/10% of the information that I hold.
This I find very interesting. Billy says that's less than 1/10% of what I talk about. Now, that may be true, like Wesley is saying, but it's not the topic that they're debating. Okay. Second point to that is that, in the research of making this video, if I just go to Billy's YouTube right now and I pull up his kind of most viewed videos. So in the top 10 of his main videos that are posted on his YouTube, the one that talks about Jesus and Christianity is right here. Could the God of the Bible really be Satan? Now, these did okay, but his lives tell a bigger story, popular. So all of his lives, a lot of them have to do with Jesus and Christianity. His top live, 2.2 million views. Could the God of the Bible really be Satan? He reposted that one as a video and got a top view as a main video too. And then he talks about his fourth biggest one. Was Jesus really a student of Thoth, or were they the same person? And I've actually pulled clips from this for this video, so you've seen clips of these. And then another one, top 5. Did Jesus' brother kill his brother and have sex with his sister? I mean, so here's another one. Is religion manipulating you through Satan and Jesus? And here's another one. Was Jesus a student of Thoth, or were they the same person? Billy Carson. So, and there's even more. So there you see, he says this is less than 1/10% of what he knows. And I'm sure that's true, but
my research and investigation is second to none. I'll stand by my research and investigation against anyone.
It's not 1/10% of what he talks about, clearly. I mean, some of his most viral videos are making these crazy claims. And I think that's the whole point of why we set up this whole debate in the first place. And like I said earlier in the video, you've gone on Patrick David and you said the same thing.
Well, he shows up in Egypt, and we know that's a fact because I take people on tour every year to Egypt, and I take them to the house that Jesus lived in. It's a crypt. It's actually worship. People come here to see that bed that he lay in every single year. When I take people there, we take them straight there. So and the path that he traveled throughout Egypt, because it's a huge sign outside that Coptic church where he lived that shows where he went. Now, when he was in Egypt, what did he go there for? To learn the Egyptian mysteries. Who taught the Egyptian mysteries? Thoth, the Atlantean priest king. And so Thoth was the teacher of the Egyptian mysteries, or the ancient mysteries is what it was called. And then he leaves there and he goes to Tibet to learn Qigong and Reiki healing, which was confirmed by the Dalai Lama. And then he heads down into India to learn the mystic arts, teaching reincarnation all the way back.
You've gone on Andrew Schultz and you said the same things.
Jesus was crucified.
Whoa.
Well, that doesn't exist in the Sinai Bible.
What happened?
It doesn't exist in the book of Barnabas, but they left that out of the Bible on purpose.
You've gone on Nick Cannon and you said the same things. And
the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not. I give you all these prayers and verses off the top of my dome because I did them so many times.
Right.
And so, just doing that, it became a part of me and understanding like, okay, well, there's something here, but at the same time, because I studied it so well, I recognized a lot of discrepancies that didn't make any sense to me before I came across the ancient tablets and saw that they were copied from ancient tablets that were thousands of years prior.
And a whole bunch of other podcasts through the years spewing these lies because it's a popular topic for your brand. And again, like, it's not true. So you're just quite literally spewing lies. And I don't really even know if Billy knows what he's doing is not true. Well, he does now after Wesley, but he has still gone on shows after this interview and spewed the same lies. Now, could those shows have been filmed prior to the Wesley interview? Possibly, but I just don't know. I really just don't know here. So what do you think?
Sure, but that was the original question. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, okay, well, so I'm going off of what we've already talked about. So you said you explored the text. I don't deny that. But the evidence, by going off of what you have put forward in terms of the actual documentary evidence, is not just less than convincing in my respect. And I mean this with respect because I think you have done a lot of research. You've traveled to these places. I have too. Like, this is what I do as my career. But I'm not really getting indication because in history, we go to the primary sources in their primary languages. And when Mark asked, okay, why do you deny the crucifixion? The sources you used were not primary.
Okay, we're still talking over and over again. There's so much more we can talk about here. We're wasting a lot of time. There's so much more. That's this amount.
Do you guys
so much more stuff to talk about?
Do you think that
talk about?
And this is when I felt like Billy wasn't interested in truth, and he just clearly was getting upset that he really had nothing to say to Wesley. And I think his frustration and maybe a bit of anger was catching up to him. And it kind of shows in this clip. He's kind of looking to Mark for help. And unfortunately, Mark listened, and the rest of the interview, I only showed bits and pieces, but from here, the interview kind of went south because Mark took Billy's side, and it wasn't really a proper debate, in my opinion. And they were kind of ganging up on Wesley, and then his internet connection broke a few times. But it didn't it doesn't even matter really, because if you know, at least for me, the pattern I've noticed in Billy is that, like I said earlier, when he talks, he stacks things. He'll say like 3 or 4 or 5 different facts, which in this case, all of them were not true. So he'll say like 3 things, and then you'll answer one of them, but then he'll try to go on to another topic, but you haven't debunked all 3 things. Like he did earlier with trying to jump to the New Testament. He's doing that again. Like Wesley is like trying to kind of correct him on the crucifixion, and Billy's like, you're bringing that up again, and he's getting all pissed, but it's like, yo, this is a pretty big deal, bro. Like, you are talking to a Christian. Like, our entire religion revolves around the death and resurrection of Jesus. So to deny that, like you have on the biggest shows in the world, like I sound like broken record saying this, but this is a huge deal, and he just wants to brush past it. And then he almost throws it on Wesley in a way, like, we're wasting time. It's like, what do you mean? Like, you're here to debate Christianity and back up your theories. It seemed like somebody was getting caught and they were just trying to move on because they were uncomfortable. Rightfully so, but it wasn't professional in my beliefs. And then you could kind of see Wesley's like, yeah, okay, dude, okay. It's kind of he's really sweet. Wesley, I think he could have went way harder. I think he was very nice. He was very kind and nice in the situation. I thought forbidden knowledge didn't dance around the bushes. It feels like dancing to me. This is dancing if I've ever seen dancing in a debate. Come on, man.
And you got to be real. All this dancing around the bushes, guys, I'm forbidden knowledge. I don't dance around the bushes. That's not who I am. You already know that. That's why y'all come to my rants, because I don't dance around. I'm going to give it to you like it is. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to give it to you like it is, period.
You're going to give it to us like it is, but you won't give it to Wesley like it is because you can't.
And I'm telling you right now, the Christians on this planet are responsible for half the problems we got.
The Christians on this planet are responsible for half the problems we got. That's a crazy claim, dude. What is your issue with Christians?
This is my conspiracy and my personal opinion about why I think Billy goes so above and beyond to try to make Christianity not seem legit. This is multifold, and I'll just break it down for you. Based off Billy's words, he was raised in a religious household. His dad, made him do Bible reports, and by a young age, he was at bars reciting Bible verses and prayers, like he showed in that Nick Cannon clip. That has to tell me that Billy actually did read the Bible. Billy understood the Bible. Billy, maybe believed in Jesus Christ at one point. And then probably, if I had to guess, Billy's a smart guy. This guy is not an idiot by any stretch of the imagination. And in a lot of ways, he's incredibly intelligent. He's incredibly interesting. He's like very, very different type of person. And I have to assume that as Billy got older and matured in age and maybe even in the Bible, he started to have questions, maybe things like about Deuteronomy and other harder to understand verses in the Bible. And when he had those questions, maybe they got shut down by pastors. Maybe they just said, hey, you shouldn't question the authority of God, which I don't personally believe in. I think everybody should question. If you don't question how you grow up and religion and everything, you shouldn't believe anything off blind faith. Personally, that's my personal beliefs. And I have an inkling that Billy did that. And these pastors and these preachers, they didn't have answers for him. And being a smart kid, it probably got him to wonder, if this is true, why can't these pastors, why can't these preachers answer my questions? And that maybe created some doubt in him or doubt in people who were Christian. I don't know. And all these things. So I have a sense Billy had a really poor experience with the Christians around him at a young age because maybe they couldn't answer his questions and told him not to question authority, that's on them. So Billy grows up and he starts to probably dig and search for answers. And that's when he comes about Gnostic gospels, these hidden gospels. And then it gives him the certainty that, oh, look, yes, I was right. The Bible is full of crap. All of this other stuff that's been hidden from me is the truth. So he clings on to it. Billy's whole origin story is that his, family kind of got broken up when he saw these gray aliens. And he told me this story too, personally, and he said it on multiple interviews. And I don't know what to believe. I mean, I believe in this stuff. I know all that stuff is very, very real. I don't think gray aliens are benevolent by any means. I don't have a reason to not believe that story. I actually believe it. Call me crazy. I've just seen some stuff too, so I would never say that that's not true because I've experienced it as well. What I will say, though, is that my experience with those aliens is that the first thing they attack is your theology. That's the first thing to go. Because if they can attack that, they can pretty much manipulate where your life will go. Because if you are grounded in your theology, specifically in Jesus Christ, you're going to have boundaries in spirituality. You're going to know what's good, what's not good based off the word of God. Those aliens, or whatever they are, they go after that. And it opens your mind to new possibilities. And that's when your foundation is replaced. So it's my speculation, but this is twofold. I believe something happened there. Whether that story's true or not, I don't know. But he did say it broke up his family. Now, that's pretty significant because based off an interview I watched with him, he said his wife was actually a Jehovah's Witness. So Jehovah's Witnesses, my ex is actually a Jehovah's Witness. So I know a lot about the culture and how they think and believe. So I would have to assume maybe his wife thought this was some demonic encounter. Maybe not. But if that's the case and it broke up his family, I could see how he would have anger and resentment and just a hatred towards Christians because that experience with the gray aliens for him was clearly very real. I mean, I've seen him cry about it in interviews. Now, could he be acting? Does have acting background? I don't know. Maybe. I don't think so, though. I actually think all of that is 100% true. You guys might think I'm crazy now, but I've seen some stuff. I have seen some stuff and I've never talked about it publicly, but I eventually will. So I have a belief that this is a twofold thing or multifold. You have the childhood stuff, questioning authority, not getting answers. You got the charismatic stuff, which doesn't represent Christians in the true light of the faith. You got alien stuff, which if you've ever had an encounter with aliens or even a psychedelic experience with mushrooms or ayahuasca or DMT, you'll know usually the first thing to go is your theology. And then fourthly, the breaking up of the family. So there's a lot of reasons to hate Christians because Christians doubt his alien theories because the Bible tells us about this stuff. It tells us the devil will disguise himself as an angel of light like aliens and light beings do. There's all these things that our faith protects us from going down rabbit holes like what Billy pushes. So my conclusion is that Billy was either influenced by outside spiritual forces, and because he was influenced by outside spiritual forces, to add validity to his conspiracy theories, he has to do the very first thing that allows conspiracy theories to take hold: eliminate the divinity or the truth of Jesus Christ. Change the identity of Jesus. He's Thoth. He's something else. He's related to the ancient Egyptians. He's related to the Hindus. He learned from the monks in Tibet. Because as soon as you do this, you can start to in place new theories. If the Bible isn't true and the figure of Jesus isn't true from the Bible, you can't trust it. It's not there. So if Billy can wreck that for you, he now gives you his theories, which we now know they're not rooted in anything that can be backed by real historical or archaeological evidence. So this is my conspiracy theory, is that Billy's entire body of work relies on Jesus not being who the Bible claims him to be, and to be some type of alien, Atlantean being. Because then now, once you change that base foundation, the sky's the limit. You can make pretty much anything up and people will believe it because they automatically don't trust the authority of the Bible. And I've been in enough cults and in the New Age and in the occult to tell you, Billy is not the only spiritual leader to do this. Every single one of the spiritual leaders I've ever worked with in this space do the exact same thing. Tony Robbins included. And he's like gentle with it, but he does it. And I've seen him do it. But Joe Dispenza, all these guys, they all do the same thing. They gotta strip away your beliefs about Jesus. Even Joe Dispenza talks about the Gnostic Gospels. So there's something here. I don't quite know what it is. I believe it has something to do with the darker demonic energy influencing people like Billy to peddle lies, to strip away the divinity of Jesus Christ. That's all this all comes back to. Because if you can do that, you can change a person's entire destiny, for sure. And I know that because I know what life is like without Jesus, because most of my life, I have been a believer of the New Age, of the occult, of ancient mysteries. I mean, this is stuff I've studied extensively, plus Hinduism, which is kind of mixed in with all this in a way. So that's my conspiracy theory. What do you got?
Okay, we're done with this video, and probably we're sharing more videos for tonight. I had one more, but it's 20 minutes, so I think we don't have to watch it. But Shaun, okay, so here we see the more complete picture of Billy. So he would rather reject Jesus' divinity, the trustworthiness of the Bible, the credibility of the witness reports from apostles, from prophets, from the Bible canon, and he would rather go to that minority that has no historical, no archaeological, no theological support when it comes to this forbidden so-called knowledge, or the so-called the books expelled or deleted from the Bible, which is of course nonsense. And any other sorts. We see the guy who's carrying, wearing this Anunnaki T-shirt, and as if that's some sort of alternative history that gives more credibility than to what we believe. To this point, I would rather go with atheist scientists and their evolution and Big Bang and everything of that sort than with seriously, you would rather rely on Anunnaki than on Christ, even though the sources and the evidence is way more supporting Jesus' divinity and truth than Anunnaki. So again, we see this guy who's very intelligent, capable of doing different stuff. Like you say, he's a licensed basketball coach. I don't know if that's true, but let's assume it is true. So we see a multi-talented guy who is just not caring about the trustworthiness of his sources. He's just going there and talking nonsense, and telling people that the Bible is not true and Jesus' divinity is not true. And then he had experience with aliens. And like Antoine on his channel was just saying, he says, yeah, that happened to me too. And guess what? Just like in the New Age and just like in many cults, Billy's teaching the same. They will always attack first and foremost Jesus' divinity and the trustworthiness of the Bible. And I think that's the core. If we don't kneel to Jesus's kingship and supremacy, we will lose our purpose, we'll lose our mission, we'll lose our quest, and we will turn to all this idle stuff that may entertain us. I love sci-fi, I like fantasy. I don't mind reading and learning about these things. But there's a line where we should draw and say, okay, this is fiction, but this is truth. Would you agree with the author that at some point Billy got confused, there was no one to help him with answers, and this is where he started detouring from Christianity, turning to these things which make him excited, supposed to give him answers, and just like as the serpent giving the knowledge, here these entities camouflaging themselves as aliens, supposedly providing this forbidden knowledge, and here's Billy's career and life just booming out exponentially. Some of the videos that he made and Antoine showed us have over 2 million views. That means 2 million views, 2 million people at least are deceived by Billy. So it's like almost like, I don't believe when someone says, oh, these Hollywood people or these successful people, they sell their soul to the devil. No, the soul is still yours. You made a pact with the devil. That's different. But Jesus can still redeem your soul, and he can still buy you, so to speak, and wash you. So no problem with that. But could it be that in the same regard, in the same fashion, we hear about these people who became suddenly overnight successful and talented and God knows what? Could it be that he went that route and then he got certain knowledge, he got certain path that propel him to become like one of those internet sensations, make money and all of that, only to see that his foundation is built on a sin, like the gospel says, because he rejected Jesus?
Yeah. So I think that the best explanation of the facts is, yeah, he probably grew up in a Christian home. He is a very intelligent person. And he started running into places where he had questions, and he didn't have people around him who were able to answer his questions, because for them, faith wasn't an intellectual pursuit. It was more about how they feel. And so when he couldn't reconcile the facts, to him, Christianity lost credibility. And I don't think he ever revisited that as on a believing side. I think probably the next time he came to Christianity to look at it analytically, was from a non-believing side. So that's where he's trying to rip it apart. I think that he probably quickly saw that the naturalistic, materialistic worldview doesn't offer anything. And I think that's the world that we're living in now. People are so hungry for spirituality, they're willing to believe anything. And when you separate Jesus from the Bible and you unfetter Jesus from the scriptures, you end up with a character in the public domain that you can shape and direct as you want. I mean, it's it's kind of like a Build-A-Bear workshop. It's a Create a Christ workshop where you can just kind of make Jesus into whatever you want him to be, and he can be just as innocuous as you need him to be to fit your worldview. And that's unfortunately what a lot of these false teachers do, is they, oh yeah, Jesus was this and this and this, but he definitely wasn't Lord. He definitely wasn't the Son of God. And interestingly, it's the same thing that the aliens tell people is, oh yeah, we're coming with this new story about Jesus. We'll tell you who he really was. Everyone wants to control the narrative on who Jesus was, and they want to divorce it from the scriptures. But we know who Jesus is. And I think that if Billy had the right people around him that were going to allow him to ask the questions that were pertinent, and they were going to sit down with him and discuss the answers from a biblical worldview, which is, what we aim to do here, ask questions, provide answers. I think that his life would have maybe had a different direction. But as it is now, obviously he's somebody who has built up a life of teaching people that Christianity, at least his version of Christianity, is false. I'm not convinced he understands historical Christianity, but at least what he understands of it is false. And so he spends his life attacking this caricature. And in the full debate that I watched, he spends a lot of time attacking Christianity of like, well, this is a religion that had put its boot on the throat of women, and he's completely ignorant of the historical context and the relationship that women had to the broader society. Christianity came, and so if we look at it from the context that we live in now, we could look at it and say, oh well, the women then were oppressed, but not realizing that before Christianity came, the oppression was so much worse that they weren't treated as humans. They were subhuman. Christianity elevated the status of women, and the only reason that they've reached the status now that we have in Western society, and only in Western society, is because of Christianity and what happens when we start taking these Christian doctrines more seriously and pursuing them more consistently. That's why you'll get the argument that, well, the Bible, they use the Bible to try to defend slavery. Well, no, nobody challenged slavery until Christianity. So it wasn't that they used the Bible to defend slavery. Slavery was never even in question. It was just an institution that all humans participated in. The question was whether or not the Bible, the principles outlined in the Bible, when they're consistently employed, would result in whether or not slavery could be maintained. And most of the people were saying obviously not. So a lot of these things that they like to try to lay at the feet of Christians, they just don't hold water. These are just people who are ignorant of the historical context that the Bible was written in, that Christianity flourished in. It's just sad to see that there are so many people that hate Christianity, and they don't understand that all of the benefits of Western society that we take for granted are the product of Christianity. They're a product of what happens when the gospel develops fruit in a culture. And so, yeah, I hope that people will realize that the Bible, our faith, our relationship with Jesus, the relationship between the church and the culture, that everything that we take for granted here, everything that makes the Western world not someplace like North Korea, not someplace like, deep in the Middle East. The freedoms that we have are directly provided by the scriptures. And so without a Christian worldview, you can say that these are good things, but you have nothing to ground them in. And so it's just scary to see people attacking the Christian faith, not knowing that everything that we love about the world is kind of balanced on a knife edge of Christian ethics. And if that goes, everything goes with it.
Yeah, I was just today or yesterday reading a little bit of what Tom Holland, and he has nothing to do with Spider-Man's actor. Tom Holland is a atheist historian, so he has no reason to support Christianity at all. He's not in our camp. But in some of his books, he wrote how Christianity actually helped propel the Western civilization with how they elevated women, with universities, with schools, with knowledge, with science, with all these things. So it's like you don't have to be a Christian to acknowledge this. Like you said, you have to be completely ignorant, like Billy. But Billy is not stupid. He chooses to be ignorant because that suits his agenda. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's numbing his consciousness, that he thinks, well, if there's no God with capital G, they're these Anunnaki beings. But if there's no, God with capital G, I don't have to be responsible with my life, with my soul to him. So it could be that he's also doing this to numb his conscience. And we sometimes do that even in our relationship with God. We tell ourselves, oh, this is not so bad if we do this. Oh, what we said may not be that bad. Or, well, okay, but we try to find excuses or whatever it is to help the way we can process information, or to find excuses for something we're about to do. It may be a sin. Okay, I'll repent after this. Or like, yeah, but I was having a bad day. Or yeah, but I need to teach them a lesson. And all of us went through this. All of us fail God in number of ways. But eventually, if we die, if we depart this life and our souls go in the afterlife, and if we don't repent, we may end up eternally as the enemies of God. I hope there is some hope of salvation, or at least some people in the afterlife, but this is an area of the unknown. So to be safe, that someone will enter the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, will be to say, hey, until your last breath, proclaim Jesus is Lord and abandon your foolishness, because he will embrace you the way you are, but he will not leave you the way you are, because he loves you more than you love yourself, because he wants to transform you into his likeness. And that's what I wish for Billy. Imagine if someone with that intelligence and with that audience, imagine Shaun, if he would actually submit to the lordship of Jesus, and if he would start making material about God, but not be a teacher immediately. I think that Kanye West, we mentioned a couple of hours ago, I think that Kanye made that mistake. He came to God, he's suddenly making these worship services. Maybe, I don't know if he was calling pastors or teaching. I mean, you're not in that position to teach. Like, you just came to faith. You're not in that position. You're there to listen from others and just be in awe of God. Listen, read the Bible, pray, go to church, and learn. And if the time comes where God will call you to a ministry or being in a teaching position or pastoral position, then praise God. But there's a path to that. There's a process of growing and learning, right? If you don't know orthodoxy of the faith, then you'll be teaching heresies. So I wish that for Kanye, I wish that to Billy Carson, I wish that to so many people out there who are deceived and seeking and striving to achieve something, enlightenment, Christ consciousness, the universe is guiding, all that garbage. And on the other side is Jesus' supremacy, which will not be diminished because you don't believe in him. This is the thing I have sometimes with churches when they call for people who want to, repeat the sinner's prayer, come into the relationship with God, and they'll say, make Jesus Lord, make Jesus as king in your life. And I'm thinking, dude, Jesus is Lord and King, even if you don't acknowledge him. You don't make Jesus Lord. You don't make Jesus King. Who you are. The Old Testament tells us we were like grass that withers. Today we're, and tomorrow we disappear. And like, I'm making Jesus to be king. And I understand the context. I'm making Jesus to be king in my life, meaning I will yield and he'll be my leader. He'll be my king. I understand the context. I wish that's formulated differently. You don't make Jesus anything. You cannot strip away Jesus of his kingship. You cannot make him a king. That will make you bigger than Jesus, and you're not. And I don't know. It's just, we all need the gospel. The gospel is beautiful. It revolves around Jesus. And like Paul was saying in Romans 7, I'm the worst sinner. Like, look at me. He's lamenting. Who will save him from his condition? I'm lamenting also when it comes to me. We're not making this episode to make ourselves self-righteous and look, Billy is a fool. No, Billy is in error, and he is teaching others this nonsense and erroneous teachings, and unfortunately deceiving them. Maybe he doesn't know this, so we wish that he will come to know Jesus, because all of us fail God, and all of us have at one point rejected Jesus. But the good news is that he loves us, and he will not reject us to our last breath. So Billy Carson, may God bless you. May you get to know Jesus. May you get to pursue Jesus and get to know his truth, his love, and his salvation. You will then not want to do with New Age, Buddhism, religious, because you'll have the fullness of life. And when you're full, and when your cup is overflowing and overrunning because of God's blessings and anointing in your life, you don't want to be dissatisfied with some garbage on the other side. That being said, thank everyone for this almost 3 hours of the episode. I plan to go 2 hours and maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes max. So thank you for staying with us. We had over 250 views, which is amazing. Thank you everyone for that. Please keep subscribing, sharing, liking. That helps the algorithm. We shall see you tomorrow at this time, actually, at 8 p.m. Central Time with PJ. Will be finally, after a couple of weeks of postponing this episode, talking about Stalker 2 video game. And then Sunday, 6 p.m. Central Time, we'll be talking with Troy and Paul when it comes to the relationship between the gospel and the zodiac, or in Jewish, it's called Mazzaroth. I think that's how it's pronounced. So we want to see the role of the constellations and the stars. Did God make stars and constellations and the whole zodiac so we can be led astray and think like, wow, all these stars, they can have influence on my health or my love life or my finances? Or if God portrayed them to put all these celestial objects in the sky, so that once when we look at them and see certain creatures and objects, we can actually see the ancient picture of the gospel portrayed in the sky. So we have many fun episodes coming. Thank all of you guys. There's no time for me to respond to everyone. Thank you, PJ. Thank you, Beyond Blessed. Thank you for that super chat. That was the first one we ever got. Thank you, everyone, also including those people who left. And again, we shall see you tomorrow and Sunday, and of course next Friday and next Sunday. And it's funny how I didn't plan this, but the last 2 Sundays of this year will be done in the spirit of Tolkien. And that's because Amber chose to cover some of the Tolkien Silmarillion, and Doug wants to come to cover. We already covered the relationship between the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Gospel with Dr. Lewis Marcus last year. But Doug wants to speak from another spiritual perspective when it comes to the Lord of the Rings, spiritual warfare, demonic attacks, our weaponry, our how we can fight back, how certain types portray certain virtues. So it will be fun. I didn't plan this, but 2 of my guests, both picked Tolkien and the different books from Tolkien. I'm like, fine, maybe that's God led. Anyway, everyone, God bless you. We shall see you tomorrow. Keep serving God, even if you fail. Don't run from God. I know I do that sometimes. We act like Adam and Eve, like we're hiding from God. God already knew before He formed you that how many times you'll fail. And guess what? He still chose you to love you and to spend time with you. So be encouraged in that. Serve God and love each other. Thanks. Bye-bye.